Thank you, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Montgomery County Council. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing on additions to the Office of Zoning and Administrative Hearings Comprehensive Fee Schedule. A GO committee work session will be scheduled at a later date. Persons wishing to submit additional materials for the Council's consideration should do so before the close of business on April 13th. Each individual will have 2 minutes to speak. Individuals will be alerted as they approach their 2 minutes and may be disconnected. And of course, there may be technical glitches. Ms. Kennedy, do we have speakers for this public hearing?
There are no speakers for this public hearing.
Okay, this public hearing is now closed. Next is a public hearing on a resolution to establish the FY22 solid waste service charges to be effective July 1st, 2021. A T&E committee work session will be scheduled at a later date. Persons wishing to submit additional material for the Council's consideration should do so before the close of business, again on April 13th. Ms. Kennedy, are there speakers for this public hearing?
No speakers, sir, for this public hearing as well.
This public hearing is now closed. Next is a public hearing on a resolution to establish the FY22 water quality protection charge to be effective July 1st, 2021. A T&E committee work session will be scheduled at a later date. Persons wishing to submit additional material for the Council's consideration should do so before the close of business on April 13th. Ms. Kennedy, do we have speakers?
No, we do not.
Great. This public hearing is now closed. Next is a public hearing on Expedited Bill 1221, Personnel Employees Retirement System Retirement Savings Plan Group Trust Amendments. Expedited Bill 1221 is primarily intended to amend the county's retirement plan to conform to recent changes in the Internal Revenue Code. The bill would increase the age for a retired minimum distribution of benefits from 70 1/2 to 72. It would change the timing for distributions to certain beneficiaries and permit the suspension of a required minimum distribution for 2020 to conform to federal law. The bill would also clarify the process for sending unclaimed distributions to the state and authorize the Board of Investment Trustees to provide for a new investment option for defined benefit contributions that would be based on the investment returns for the defined benefit trust returns. A GO committee work session will be scheduled at a later date, and persons wishing to submit additional materials for the Council's consideration should do so before the close of business on April 13th. Ms. Kennedy, are there speakers for this public hearing?
We do. We have one speaker for this public hearing. It's Linda Herman. Ms. Herman, you will have 2 minutes for your testimony, and you may begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Council President Hucker and members of the County Council. For the record, I'm Linda Herman, the Executive Director of the Montgomery County Employee Retirement Plans. I'm here today on behalf of the County Executive to testify in support of Bill 1221, Chapter 33, Retirement and Investments. The proposed bill will amend the county's law related to the employees' retirement system and the retirement savings plan due to recent changes in federal law, including increasing the mandatory required distribution age by which benefits must begin from age 70 1/2 to age 72, suspending certain required minimum distributions for 2020, and changing the timing of distribution of benefits to beneficiaries. In addition, related to streamlining the operations of the retirement plans, we are recommending a change to the timing for receiving beneficiary forms, clarification of the process for achievement for certain distributions to participants who cannot be located or where the participant or beneficiary has not accepted the distribution. The boards overseeing the retirement plans and the Consolidated Retiree Health Benefits Trust have also requested legislation to clarify the operations of the group trust and permit the unitization of the employees' retirement system to provide an investment option for defined contribution and deferred retirement option plan participants. This legislation results in bringing the retirement plans into compliance with federal law, increasing the investment options offered to participants, and lowering the cost of operating the retirement-related trust funds. We look forward to working with the Council in its deliberations on this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. President, that wraps the speakers for this public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Herman. Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. This public hearing is now closed. Next is a public hearing on Expedited Bill 1321, Streets and Roads, Permit to Obstruct the Public Rights of Way and Franchising Amendments. This bill would expand the authority of the Department of Permitting Services to issue permits for right-of-way occupations, require a permittee to execute a certain agreement for private installation of non-commercial structures that are accessory to residential use in the public's right-of-way, clarify the exemption of franchise requirements, and generally amend the law regarding permits to obstruct public rights-of-way. A T&E committee work session will be scheduled at a later date. Persons wishing to submit additional material for the council's consideration should do so before the close of business on April 13th. Ms. Kennedy, are there speakers for this public hearing?
There are no speakers for this hearing.
Thank you. This public hearing is now closed. Next is a public hearing on a supplemental appropriation of the county government's FY21 capital budget and amendment to the FY21 to 26 capital improvements project for the Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $13,647,000 for an emergency homeless shelter. An HHS committee work session is tentatively scheduled for April 12th. Persons wishing to submit additional material for the council's consideration should do so before the close of business on April 7th. Ms. Kennedy, do we have speakers for this public hearing?
We do. Our first speaker for this public hearing is Initial Miller. Mr. Miller, if you would like to unmute and show us your video and begin your testimony, you have 2 minutes. I see they are there, but maybe, there we go, Miss Miller. Yes, if you could please unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Hi.
There you go. Thank you very much. You may begin.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I'm Initial Miller here in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I am a resident here of Burtonsville, Maryland. I'm also a previous homeless woman and family members as well for throughout my childhood and adult life, as well as in my youth. I am writing in relation to the funding because I think it's a potential way to help remove isolation within the shelter setting, but also protect individuals as well as staff and volunteers. I will say that a lot of individuals that I've worked with who are homeless have made a lot of different, brought up a lot of different concerns in relation to the space and the safety and the shelter. And I believe that this funding will definitely eradicate some of those things as it relates to space and health in relation to COVID. Unfortunately, today I'm speaking just freestyle because my testimony was submitted, but I am not able to pull it up because of the bad internet connection. We have a poll down right here in Burtonsville. So I will say that I support this, and I have been a volunteer for a long time now in the homeless community. And I think that we definitely deserve this funding. It will solve a lot of issues, especially if they receive anything as it relates to healthcare on the site. I think that's really important. It can address other issues as well, and that it's something that should stay in place regardless of COVID, and probably should go across other sites as well to have a facility with a healthcare, addressing healthcare needs, especially mental illness and things of that nature, as well as grooming and other essential needs in a shelter. So thank you for your time. I hope you pass this funding. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Our next speaker for this public hearing is Lisa Lowe. Ms. Lowe, you will have 2 minutes and you begin your testimony whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Lisa Lowe. I'm here representing Family Advocates Coalition to End Addiction in Maryland. And while I wholeheartedly endorse the addition of services for our county's homeless residents, I would like to propose a favorable amendment. I'd like to propose that measures be taken to end the illegal treatment to homeless pipeline, which currently exists in our county. The Inter-County Commission on Homelessness has reported in the past that a certain percentage of shelter residents are routinely discharged directly from Avery Road Treatment Center, as well as behavioral health units in our county hospitals. And according to COMAR 1047-0104, 1047-0207, 1047-0208, and Chapter 580, which used to be House Bill 869, the Recovery Residential Rights Protection Act of 2017, these discharges are not in compliance with these regulations. These COMAR regulations specify that higher levels of care in the substance use disorder continuum of care are supposed to do a comprehensive assessment, and they specify what that looks like. They assess, the family and social history, educational, mental health, employment, need for financial support, and out of that comes a treatment plan. The treatment plan also specifies the psychological, vocational, educational, legal, family things that need to happen. And then based on that comes the referral. The referrals specify that these people are in need of vocational services, substance abuse treatment programs, legal assistance, family services. It outlines what these entail. It says that these treatment services are based on ASAMP criteria. That's criteria from the American Association of Addiction Medicine.
Ms. Lowe, pardon me, Ms. Lowe, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your time is up. Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony. That wraps up our speakers, Mr. President, for this public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Lowe and Ms. Kennedy. This public hearing is now closed. Next is a public hearing on a supplemental appropriation to the county government's FY21 capital budget and amendment to the FY21 to 26 capital improvements program for the Department of Transportation in the amount of $1,017,000 for master leases, transit radio system replacement. A T&E committee work session will be scheduled at a later date. Persons wishing to submit additional material for the council's consideration should do so before the close of business on April 13th. Ms. Kennedy, do we have speakers for this public hearing?
We have no speakers, sir.
Great. Well, this public hearing is now closed. Next is a public hearing on zoning text amendment 2101, sign ordinance, bus shelter advertising. This ZTA would exempt from the sign ordinance bus shelter advertising installed under a license with the county. A Fed committee work session on this ZTA will be scheduled at a later date. Persons wishing to submit additional material for the council's consideration should do so before the close of business on April 13th. Ms. Kennedy, do we have speakers for this public hearing?
There are no speakers for this hearing.
Okay, this public hearing is now closed. Next is a public hearing on the declaration of no further need, disposition of county parking lot number 41 for lease renewal located at 4538 Middleton Lane, Bethesda. Action is immediately scheduled following this hearing. Ms. Kennedy, are there speakers for this public hearing?
There are no speakers.
Okay, this public hearing is now closed. Can I get a motion to approve the declaration of no further need?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Madam Clerk? All those in favor of approving the declaration, please raise your hand.
Aye.
That sounds unanimous and looks unanimous. Okay, great. Thank you. Next is a public hearing on a supplemental appropriation to the county government's FY21 operating budget on the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service in the amount of $2,041,846 for FY21 Senator Amos Fire Rescue and Ambulance Fund. Action is also scheduled immediately following this hearing. Ms. Kennedy, do we have speakers for this public hearing?
There are no speakers for this hearing.
Okay, this public hearing is now closed. Could we get a motion? The Public Safety Chair moves the appropriation.
So moved, Mr. President.
Is there a second? Council Vice
Second.
President, seconds. Great. All those in favor of this special appropriation this special appropriation? Can we please get a show of hands? Terrific.
Welcome to Royce. What can I get for you?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That is unanimous. Next is a public hearing on the FY22 operating budget and FY22 to 27 public services program and fiscal policy and amendments to the FY22 capital budget and FY21 to 26 capital improvements program for the following: Montgomery County Government, Montgomery College, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, WSSC Water, and Montgomery County Public Schools. Council and committees will conduct work session on the budgets over the next 3.5 weeks. Beginning Monday, April 12th, full council work sessions will begin in May. The committee schedule is available on the council's website. Ms. Kennedy, do we have speakers for this public hearing?
Yes, we do. Our first speaker for this hearing will be Judd Ashman. Mr. Ashman, you have 2 minutes and you begin your testimony as soon as you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the council. You're all familiar with the issue I'm about to talk about, but most residents are not, so I'll give a little background. People who live in Gaithersburg and other area municipalities pay taxes to their city and to the county. Sometimes those taxes turn out to be duplicative. For example, take road maintenance. City of Gaithersburg does most of the road maintenance within our city limits, yet our residents pay taxes to both the city and the county for road maintenance. We refer to this inequity as tax duplication. What's supposed to happen is that the county rebates the money to the municipalities for the services we're providing that the county would otherwise have to provide. To some degree, this does happen, but not at the level commensurate with the cost of services the municipalities provide. In fact, during the Great Recession, due to lack of revenue, the county froze the rebate at a certain level, and now even as revenues have recovered, the rebate remains frozen while the cost of providing those services grows each year. Last year, we were pleased that the county executive included an increase in this proposed budget, but with the pandemic going on, the increase was ultimately cut. In this proposed budget, the county executive has again included an increase in tax duplication funding, but the increase falls short of fully funding the reimbursement of these service costs. Today, I'm asking the council to address the current tax duplication inequity for our residents who should not be forced to pay the county for services that only the city provides. Here are some specifics. The council should amend the municipal tax duplication payments for transportation, police, crossing guard, and park services to reflect the amounts these services cost, which would total $14.2 million. It's about $5 million more than what's budgeted. The council should work to codify a consistent process and method to update the formula for these categories and try to accomplish that before the next budget process. And the council should urge the county executive to begin negotiations on the formula for police and park maintenance services for FY23 budget year. In summary, fully fund the rebate this year and let's codify the formula moving forward. And we thank you all for everything you do for our county.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next speaker for this public hearing is Michael Knapp. Mr. Knapp, you have 2 minutes for your testimony. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good afternoon. I'm Mike Knapp, speaking today in my role as chair of the Montgomery College Board of Trustees. I'll be brief. Please fund the college's FY22 operating budget request. Okay, not quite that brief. Montgomery College's budget is fiscally prudent and keeps tuition flat for the second year in a row. Our faculty and staff have made sacrifices to achieve these two key priorities. We're thankful to our employees for their selfless devotion to our students and foregoing pay raises next year. They're clearly setting the standard for others to follow. Let me say that again. We're thankful to our employees for their selfless devotion to our students and foregoing pay raises next year. During this time of crisis, our faculty and staff have stepped up to the plate in big ways. Seemingly overnight, they learned how to instruct online, began teaching 7-week courses instead of traditional 15 weeks, created boot camps to help put residents back to work, raised funds for emergency aid for students, and kept our campuses safe while we work from home. Others made face shields, managed blood drives and food distributions on campus, volunteered in clinical trials, and guided nursing students as they dispensed vaccines. And now staff are pitching in to make the Germantown campus work as a mass vaccination site. We only seek new funds for 2 shared priorities: to expand access to the coding camp for middle school students, Montgomery Can Code, and to operate the new innovation hub at the Rockville campus. Both the coding camp and the hub will advance equity in STEM careers as well as spur innovation, entrepreneurship, and community building. These initiatives will enable budding coding geniuses, no matter their zip code, to become the skilled talent our county needs and activate innovators to take our economy to new heights. Together, we can help our county rebound because, as you can see, MC works for Montgomery. Thank you very much, and good luck in your deliberations.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Seth Morgan. Mr. Morgan, you also have 2 minutes for your testimony, and you may also begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much. My name is Seth Morgan. I am the chair of the Commission on People with Disabilities. And as the council knows very well, we have been having disagreements with the Department of Transportation. The risks to the pedestrians are not being well served at this juncture. The emphasis on reconfiguring sidewalks to wedge in bike lanes and floating bus stops is creating a conflict between pedestrians and bicyclists that increases the risk to both groups. This is an artificial conflict that has been created by DOT policies. The county dollars are being spent to build designs that are very similar to those that have resulted in lawsuits internationally and may be, in fact, in violation of the ADA. Further, data from the Vision Zero program presented just last month on March 25th to the Pedestrian, Bicycle, and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee showed that since 2007, severe injury accidents are about 5 times more common in pedestrians as compared to bicyclists. And yet the county still has major pedestrian routes to schools without any safe sidewalks for pedestrians and students to use. Given the significantly higher risk to pedestrians, building sidewalks should be the first priority. We continue to call for a temporary moratorium on bike lane building. As a separate issue, please look at my full testimony for multiple other issues, but the Commission supports the request for full funding of the Developmental Disability Supplement as requested by the Interact. Please refer to our priorities separately that I don't have time to present, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker will be Patrick Benko. Mr. Benko, you also have 2 minutes, and you may begin when you're ready.
Council President Hucker, members of the council, thank you for providing this forum for myself and others in our community. I also want to start by thanking you for recently extending free rides on ride-on buses. You mentioned how great it is to see ride-on as a critical link to the new mass vaccination site in Germantown. My name is Patrick Benko. I am a Germantown resident who is here representing the MCDOT Transit Advisory Group, better known as TAG. I took my first solo ride-on trip when I was 13 to get to a summer job. Since then, ride-on has connected me with work, entertainment, metro, and MARC trains. It's even rescued me from a marathon training run that didn't quite go as planned. After 30 years of ridership, I can attest to ride-on being a best-in-class system. The buses are clean, the drivers are friendly, and best of all, you get reliable service. Going beyond my first-hand accounts, there is ample evidence to this statement in what MCDOT has recently implemented and has planned for the future. Products such as Ride-On Extra, Flex, and Flash have been rolled out to address the changing dynamics of how people get around, and also making transit a convenient choice and better resource for those who rely on it. There has also been big strides made in IT, communications, plus the introduction of electric buses. All of this is to say that the investment made in Ride-On has given our community a tremendous return, and I commend the folks for being outstanding stewards of the resources given to them. I sit before you today as a representative of TAG. It is a diverse group, and my list of asks could be a long one, but I've narrowed it down to just one, and that is to have the political willpower to invest in Ride-On and transit. Considering the pandemic's effect on budgets and ridership, I recognize that this is not an easy request. We're at critical junctures. One is climate change. Getting cars off the roads and changing behaviors requires prioritize transit over cars, even electric ones. The other is the makeup of our transportation infrastructure. What you fund there will be the true test of what we as a community care about. After getting to know more about Ride-On's visions for the future and the people behind those plans, I will readily say that we will all get something in return when more is invested in Ride-On and transit. We are on the precipice of big changes in transportation infrastructure and community behaviors, and I can't think of a better time than now to invest in the future of how we get places.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker for this public hearing is Jane Lyons. Ms. Lyons, you also have 2 minutes, and you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jane Lyons, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Coalition for Smarter Growth. First, transit. I'd like to also start out by thanking you for keeping Ride-On free at least until June 30th. and thus we urge you to keep bus fares free throughout FY22, maintain transit funding, support the plan to reimagine Ride-On, and continue to work towards bus rapid transit. A strong bus network is key to furthering equity, our economic recovery, and fighting climate change. For more detail, we refer you to the March 31st letter from the Montgomery Better Buses Coalition. We also urge you to fully fund the Capitol Crescent Trail and reject the proposal to single track the Purple Line in Bethesda. We must stay the course on this and other major transit, bike, and pedestrian investments, which are all key to our competitiveness. Next, affordable housing. Home is life, especially amid a pandemic. Thus, we strongly support the proposed affordable housing funding, including increases for rapid rehousing and rental assistance. We also urge you to fund the Housing Initiative Fund, Affordable Housing Acquisition and Preservation Fund, Affordable Housing Opportunity Fund, and the HOC Housing Production Fund. Next, recordation tax. During the 2020 Growth and Infrastructure Policy Update, the Council promised to consider a progressive increase to the recordation tax in the FY22 budget. And due to the pandemic, the real estate market is now hotter than ever. We can take advantage of this market strength to help fund schools and affordable housing. And finally, traffic enforcement. Per the county executive's Reimagining Public Safety Task Force, the county should move to a fully or nearly fully automated traffic enforcement system with a reduction in FTE equivalent sworn officer positions across MCPD districts in proportion to the amount of officer time currently spent on in-person traffic enforcement. Thus, we support the calls to action regarding traffic enforcement led by Young People for Progress. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The next speaker for this public hearing is Peter Gray. Mr. Gray, you may begin when you're ready, and you have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm here representing the Washington Area Bicyclist Association. It's 1,500 members in Montgomery County and thousands of other supporters who live, work, and travel here. I want to highlight a few things from my written testimony with regards to the FY22 operating budget. With regards to parks and planning, WABA asked the council to restore funding cut from the agency's request related to rehabilitating trails and the provision of trail amenities. This includes restoring an FTE engineer position and $60,000 for trail amenities. Referring to MCDOT's budget, a decrease in bike share funding for operations and maintenance would likely result in the removal of existing stations from the network. Shrinking this program in the same year that the region has seen an explosive growth in biking for transportation is at odds with the county's non-auto mode share, emissions reduction, and Vision Zero goals. At a minimum, the funding for this program should be maintained at the same level as FY21. Next, WABA supports the demands that were just mentioned of the Montgomery County Better Bus Coalition, as Ms. Lyons just testified on. And finally, with regards to the police, we separately urge that the council reduce funding for police traffic enforcement patrols while transferring that funding and those enforcement functions to unarmed county civilians. We've seen locally and nationally how police traffic enforcement actions have a disproportionate impact on communities of color and create unnecessary conflict with those communities. The Reimagining Public Safety Task Force recommendation studying these issues has recommended the removal of armed police from traffic enforcement. We hope that the council will implement that policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker for this public hearing is Denise Guitarra. Ms. Guitarra, you have 2 minutes. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Montgomery County Council. I am Denise Guitarra, Maryland Conservation Advocate representing Audubon Naturalist Society. ANS thanks the Council for the opportunity to provide testimony on fiscal year operating budget, capital, and CIP budgets. Although much of the county's budget needs should be focused on addressing the public health crisis, ANS strongly advocates for a sustainable post-COVID recovery plan, which also addresses the 4 concurrent public health, economic, climate, social, and racial crises. The environmental section only gets 2.8% of the operating budget. This is a relatively small slice of the pie, but knowing that climate change will and has already impacted all of us and is a threat multiplier across all other ongoing crises. For the operating budget, ANS asks that $0.65 million is allocated for the climate change planning program, and that some of these funds are also sent to include more BIPOC communities into the climate action planning process and decision-making processes. We also ask that $1 million is allocated to the Racial Equity and Social Justice Program. For parks, we ask that the council fully funds the Parks Department at their request of $119 million. As seen during the pandemic, our parks are serving as natural refuges, keeping people healthy both physically and mentally. For stormwater, we ask Council to work cooperatively with DEP and Parks to ensure that both agencies' priority stormwater management projects are fully funded from accessible revenue sources. As for transit, we ask Council to approve the $1.5 million in the capital budget towards redesigning ride-on bus services, and that in the CAP, we continue to further fund BRT projects. I have also provided a full copy of our written testimony ahead of today's public hearing. We ask Council to consider and carefully review our budget requests. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker for this public hearing is Don Schulman. Mr. Schulman, you may begin your testimony when you're ready, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, neighbors and friends. My name is Don Schulman, and I am the volunteer race director for the Parks Half Marathon, which is a nearly 20-year-old race that attracts about 2,000 runners annually in our county. Additionally, I am past president of the Montgomery County Roadrunners Association, which has been the 4th largest running club in the United States. I want to begin by stating that Montgomery County is truly a wonderful place to live. From a socialization, work, education, and recreation perspective, there is really no better place I can imagine living than this wonderful community. I do believe, though, the one incremental difference that allows our county to rise above all others is our parks system and those who support it. This is a unique and special part of the lives of so many people. If nothing else, the past year has seen our parks playing a vital role in the overall well-being for all of us during the extended periods of isolation and fatigue. The parks welcomed us and encouraged and provided a haven and safe retreat from the bitter and all-consuming news of the day. From the perspective of our racing and running community, the ability to utilize our paved natural path trails are an important part of each week for almost 4,000 runners alone in the county. As the awareness and participation in outdoor activities continues to grow within our county, the opportunity to maintain and add additional venues of both types of recreational platforms represent an essential reality and, in my mind, define a critical difference of our county. I wanted to briefly share a story that recently touched the lives of our community. One of our members, who was an avid runner, recently passed away from cancer. One of his last wishes was to have a bench placed in his memory in Needwood Park so others could come and relax and enjoy the beauty of a park that truly represents the soul of who we are. That alone should give you an idea of how dearly and deeply we hold our park service and our systems within our hearts every day. In closing, I would just like to add that our county leadership understands what to do in governing our municipality and certainly how to do it. Our park services represent the why of what we do and how and who we are, and really what makes our county extraordinary as a community and a local family. Again, I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this afternoon.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker for this public hearing is Priscilla Leibowitz. Ms. Leibowitz, you may begin. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Hello. We've been taxpayers in Montgomery County for 40 years, and I started the Friends of the Tacoma Park Rec Center some years ago. I'm politically active and have supported many of the council members, including some from Tacoma Park who seem to have forgotten us. The council has shamefully refused to right the county's tax duplication wrong for 13 years and is now making it worse. I completely agree with the mayor of Gaithersburg. Although homeowners, my husband and I are not concerned so much about our taxes. We write because double taxation penalizes the majority of Tacoma Park residents who are tenants of multifamily dwellings, the majority of whom are people of color who pay extra taxes through their rent and may or may not know it. The council's refusal to pay its fair share for the services Tacoma Park and other high minority municipalities provide, and Montgomery County does not, is shameful. Some of you may think that refusing to increase and refusing to pay for the services we pay for twice, like crossing guard wages, road maintenance, parks, and police, is picking budgetary low-hanging fruit. But we notice and are very concerned by your seeming lack of interest in reimbursing us fairly. It's time to codify a consistent process for updating the formulas and to begin negotiation on the formula for police and park maintenance. By the way, although not part of reimbursement, Tacoma Park pays for a rich and community-serving recreation program, while the county provides our residents with almost nothing in recreation services. Our taxpayers should not be paying a county recreation tax, and that must change. If you think of Tacoma Park as a bunch of aging hippie do-gooders, you are overlooking the majority of our population who are young, diverse, and have been struggling since before the pandemic. We're not looking for a handout or special treatment. In fairness, we want what we are entitled to. Please don't let us down. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The next speaker for this public hearing is Diana Lavoie. Lillian Moss will take over and handle the translation for this testimony.
Absolutely. Señora Diana Godoy, es un momento de brindar su testimonio. Puede abrir el micrófono y su cámara para hacerlo. Diana?
We can't hear her. She might still be muted.
Necesita abrir el micrófono en la parte inferior izquierda de su pantalla. Donde dice mute, ahí debe de abrir su micrófono.
She's unmuted, but we still can't hear her for some reason. Turn the volume up, possibly, on the computer.
¿Puede subir el volumen de su computadora? Ahora la vemos, pero su micrófono está cerrado, Diana. Ahora sí. ¿Hable? No se escucha su audio. She submitted her testimony. If you want, I can read it for you.
Okay, I thought I heard something. Can she try one more time? I thought I heard something when she just clicked.
I heard some birds, not sure if it's her.
Maybe me. Okay.
¿No, Diana? Ok, ¿le parece, está de acuerdo, nos escucha, verdad? ¿Le parece si yo leo su testimonio? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read her testimony. Oh, just give me 1 second while I access to it, okay? She says, good afternoon, members of the council. My name is Diana Godoy. I have been a resident of the city of Gaithersburg for many years. Recently, I'm at children's schools. I was granted an appointment to get vaccinated, but this chance wasn't given to my husband or any other adult living in my home. I believe that the ideal will be for all members of each family to get vaccinated. As you may know, in many Latinos households, live several people. Therefore, their risk of getting infected is higher. I would also like for you to consider vaccinating areas in our county that have the highest numbers of residents, especially those areas where the highest numbers of Latino families live, since we have been one of the most affected communities. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker for the public hearing is Wayne Swan. Mr. Swan, you have 2 minutes for your testimony, and you may begin when you're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Wayne Swan, Chair of the Montgomery County Advisory Board. And so in the 2 minutes that I have, I'll try to cover several items and be relatively brief. Just as a reminder, the Montgomery Cares Advisory Board covers both care for kids, maternity partnership, dental services, healthcare for individuals experiencing homelessness, as well as Montgomery Cares program, which provides primary care and specialty care. Given the impact of COVID-19, the Montgomery Cares Advisory Board has identified specific priorities for each program with level funding. However, the following requests represent the need for replacement or increased funding for the affected services. And I'll just go through this very briefly. In telehealth, we have an additional cost to provide interpretation services compatible with telehealth technologies. In the area of behavioral health psychiatry services, in order to ensure sufficient psychiatric services are available through the collaborative care model, increased funding is required due to the increased cost of the contract provider. In the area of project access specialty care, there's a need for increased funding to maintain the same level of access to specialty care, addressing the loss of pro bono specialty services from our private practitioners. In the area of care for kids, there's a need to provide resources to hire 2 FTEs, full-time equivalents, to address prior year's program's growth and the anticipated surge in enrollment and renewals for FY22. In the area of dental services, we want to consider the development of a broader dental safety net collaborative effort, including teledentistry. We also want to add an institute a school-based sealing program at MCPS elementary schools. The third item is to provide resources for staffing to meet unmet dental needs. And last, into the healthcare for the homeless, we want to provide resources to hire a full-time psychiatric discharge planner to coordinate appropriate discharges from inpatient to outpatient settings for residents experiencing homelessness.
Mr. Swan, I'm so sorry for the interruption, but your time is up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. The next speaker for this public hearing is Pam Saucy. Ms. Saucy, you have 2 minutes. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Council President Hucker and council members. I am Pamela Saucy, President of Friends of the Library, Montgomery County. I'm here today in support of the County Executive's FY 2022 budget proposal for MCPL because it will keep our libraries strong. I'm proud of the way Library Director Anita Vassallo and her team responded to the pandemic's demands. While closing their doors, MCPL moved swiftly to make even more of our library's resources and programs available via the internet as a first step. Then they joined other departments to make the internet available to those without such access. They streamlined their electronic inventory and made physical books safely available through curbside pickups that can be arranged online or by phone. With funding from Friends of the Library Montgomery County for a Zoom license, they took their once in-person offerings online successfully. And we were pleased that our library lead, Councilmember Jawanda, with MCPL support, also started a daily online story time. Thanks to this leadership, our libraries did what libraries do. They offered us education, entertainment, inspiration, useful instruction, reassurance, and hope. As MCPL responded to the pandemic's demands, they got support from the council following the Education and Culture Committee's initiatives. We were especially grateful for Councilmember Jawando's leadership in February that led to the full council turning back efforts to cut into MCPL's collection budget. We will need strong libraries as we return to pre-pandemic priorities. As County Executive Elrich pointed out last month, these issues have not gone away. We were pleased to see MCPL have a role in the Basics program the county is initiating in Gaithersburg to bring early literacy to young children, thereby making them more ready for kindergarten, an effort crucial to addressing inequities in our county. Montgomery County library lovers long ago adopted the slogan, "Libraries Matter." This past year has shown us how true that is. With your continued support, it will stay the case moving forward with strong libraries. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker for this public hearing is Monique Reiser. Ms. Reiser, you have 2 minutes. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, President Hucker and members of the Council. I am the Executive Director of Urban Alliance's Greater DC region, which includes Montgomery County and Prince George's County, Maryland. For 25 years, Urban Alliance has provided critical workforce development skills and paid internships to predominantly Black and Brown youth from underinvested communities. In fact, we've provided more than 6,000 internships to youth across this region, Baltimore, Chicago, and Detroit. I'm here today to request an appropriation of $120,000 to continue Urban Alliance's critical workforce development programming in the county's budget through the Montgomery County Community Grants non-departmental account. For the past 2 years, we've been unable to even apply for the county executive and council grants, despite our outcomes, because we are not an historic grantee, but we are an evidence-based program that gets results for the youth of the county. Just for some quick background, we came to Montgomery County after a 2015 Greater Washington Community Foundation report recommended our services to address the challenge of more than 8,000 youth who were disconnected from school and work in the area. A 2017 grant from the Community Foundation's Children's Opportunity Fund made that recommendation possible. Since then, we've consistently exceeded our goals for the 98 Montgomery County public school students we've served, including during the pandemic, and the 30 we continue to serve now. More than 85% of our program participants in Montgomery County public schools demonstrated growth in their professional skills, and 100% of the participants immediately connected to self-sufficient pathways. 96% of them have persisted on those pathways. We're also one of the few organizations, less than 2%, that actually undergo a randomized controlled trial, which is considered the gold standard of external evaluations. The Greater Washington Community Foundation's Children's Opportunity Fund that enabled our program to exist and expand in the county has gradually reduced year over year. If added to the 2022 budget, this $120,000 request would enable us to expand our program to serve more students at this critical time. 80% of our students contribute to their household income, and this is an important time to ensure that support for them and their families can continue. Thank you so much for consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. President, that wraps up the speakers for this public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Thank you to all our speakers. We look forward to working with you in the future as we put together this budget. Next is, the public hearing is now closed. And next is our interview with the County Executive's appointment for Special Projects Manager, Ms. Judith Costello. Mr. Fletcher.
Welcome. Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Council President. All right, good afternoon, Council President Hooker and council members. I am Assistant Chief Administrative Officer Jerome Fletcher, and on behalf of County Executive Mark Elrick, I'm introducing Judy Costello is our candidate for Special Projects Manager. This role in the County Executive Office will oversee multiple projects that are crucial to the success of the county's current and future economic development. We are fortunate to have a candidate today with a very strong background in life sciences and biohealth, which mirrors the strength of our county. For nearly the last 4 years, she has served as the Managing Director of Economic Development at Innovations Incorporated. And prior to that, she was the director of the Office of Biohealth and Life Sciences, the Maryland Department of Commerce. Upon joining our team, she will immediately begin administration of pandemic free grant, which we've been focused on for the past year, serving as the Marriott Conference Center Asset Manager. She'll be working for the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation as their contact administrator, as well as someone who monitors the metrics. She will also begin evaluating economic development public incentive programs with our business advancement team. She'll also be serving on the Purple Line Corridor Coalition Steering Committee, making sure that this project is a high priority for the county executive. She will also serve as a contact administrator for Montgomery and the Maryland Tech Council. She'll also be implementing the Economic Advisory Group action, knowing that we have several different during economic. We are fortunate to have such a qualified candidate for your appointment today, and I want to thank you for allowing me to introduce her. President.
Thank you so much. Nice to see you, Ms. Kasiri. Ms. Costello, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your time. I know you all have a long day today and more ahead.
We do. Thank you. I have several questions for you that I think have been shared with you in advance, and then we'll open it up to see if my colleagues have any questions as well. First, why do you want to become the Special Projects Manager?
Sure. Well, frankly, it's a unique opportunity for me to leverage my background, experience, and interest in a way that'll help the county exec, and I think help all of you with your goals for an economic and inclusive economy here in the county that'll help us all have more job opportunities and a continued strong quality of life, like was just referenced in by many of the speakers in the previous hearing. I've actually lived in the county since the mid-'80s. I've raised 4 kids here, so I was reminded in that last hearing. We've been on the ride-on buses, we've used the trails, we've used the rec facilities. I know we're short on time, but I'm a believer in the county and all that it offers. I also know there's room for improvement. I know there are challenges with up county, down county, east, west. Everything is not the same, but I embrace the challenges ahead of us. In terms of experience, I've worked formally in economic development for a number of years. I started back, I'm aging myself, but in the mid-'90s with Fairfax County's Economic Development Corporation when they were proactive at recruiting companies with offices in California and overseas. I then worked also for, as Jerome mentioned, for the Maryland Department of Business and Economic Development and Commerce, focused primarily on recruiting and retaining and growing the life sciences companies in Maryland. And in between there, I spent a number of years running an organization that touched on economic development activity with universities and business.
Terrific. Well, you started on this answer already, but please share with us your background, knowledge, and experience related to planning, developing, coordinating, and implementing special projects generally, and especially special projects vital to the economic development of the county.
So planning, coordinating, and implementing tons of events related to entrepreneur through the years. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I ran the longest running angel venture breakfast 4 times a year, 300 people, 1 in 4 companies got funded. That turned into an entrepreneurship boot camp and a Mid-Atlantic Regional Technology Innovation Showcase that brought together universities from throughout the region. When I went over to the Maryland Department of Commerce and more recently BHI, I've worked on programs supporting the Biotechnology Investor Incentive Tax Credit, the SBIR, some of the work that you've done with matches and postdoc and workforce. I can go into more detail. I had some of those I promoted and referred as resources. I didn't plan all of them. I've always been active in supporting the policy and weighing the pros and cons of each of those issues.
Terrific. Thank you. This position involves working on special projects, including the administration of pandemic recovery grants, the Marriott Conference Center, the Purple Line, and evaluating incentive proposals with the Economic Development Corporation. Please describe your experience evaluating budgets and proposals and administering contracts.
So I've managed budgets and contracts ranging from $250,000 to $3 million at my role at the Business Alliance. And then when I was director of Maryland Department's Office of Biohealth. In terms of administering contracts, various vendor contracts through many different roles, ranging from $10,000 to the Maryland Pavilion at Bio International, which is a couple $100,000 project. At BHI, I was asked to be the PI on their U.S. Commerce EDA challenge grant, which was $500,000 over a couple years. And I also, for a period of time when I joined BHI, they had an incubator management contract, as you may know, with the county, where I was responsible for the Germantown Innovation Center, Rockville Innovation Center via contracts.
Thank you. What is your experience working with government agencies and departments to create and distribute funding to county residents?
So to Montgomery County residents, most of that has been distributing of working with folks to help local businesses versus individual residents get funding. Specifically, a lot of work trying to help the smaller biohealth companies and startups get funding, whether it's their initial innovation grants or learning about the MOVE grant through the county or the SBIR match. I also, while at Commerce, as deputy director, ran what was the BioMaryland Rockville office based in Rockville at what's now NCCOE. And through that work, helped larger companies with their incentive financing by having them meet the right people, talking about their job growth and capital investment.
Great. Can you tell us about a time when you've planned and led the development of policy on a complex issue?
So most of my roles have not been the policy leader. I've been the advocator or explainer. So explaining to folks why a biotechnology investor incentive tax credit or the Montgomery County add-on might make sense. Why are we giving a credit to someone for a job? How could that be? Why does that make a difference versus other uses of those funds? I have done some things, for example, at the Maryland Business Innovation Association, we had funds from a state agency that were going to incubators, and I added criteria so that the companies receiving the funds had skin in the game, and we could help measure that those funds were being used to advance technology. Hard to explain complex things simply, but
Did a good job. What experience do you have in applying advanced level management principles to conduct strategic, visionary, long-range planning, especially in the areas of affordable housing, community development, small business continuity, and workforce development initiatives?
So in terms of advanced level planning, staffing, controlled visioning, I did that while running the nonprofit organization with a fairly diverse set of board of directors. But more recently, while working for the Maryland Department of Commerce, I had the opportunity to staff the Governor's Life Science Advisory Board. And under former chair Dan Abdenabi, who used to run Emergent, and Dr. Perman, now the Chancellor of the University System of Maryland, we had weekly meetings, worked with 7 different working groups, dozens of industry leaders, academic and government across the state, to come up with the 5 key areas they felt were critical to growing the life sciences industry in Maryland. That is the Act Now program, which they're still using today or following the Maryland Life Science Advisory Board.
Thank you. If appointed, how would you position this role to work on racial equity and social justice issues?
Well, the first thing I would do is work to adopt the framework that all of you set in 2019. Second thing would be to meet with Ms. Tiffany Ward, whom I've not yet met, but I understand her role. I want to be able to learn from her the best way to be inclusive and ally and make sure that we're leveraging the platform to ensuring any funding, for example, we're offering is accessible to all, that we're breaking down barriers where appropriate, and ask those questions on any new project that we're doing going forward.
And are there any current or potential conflicts of interest of which we should be aware?
So I'm currently employed by BioHealth Innovation, which currently has a contract with the county, and I'll defer to Fariba, but I believe her office has requested an ethics or waiver from the Ethics Commission. I do want to assure you that whether it's that or anything we might come across going forward, one, I do not have any personal gain from the contract BHI currently has, and in the future, if there were any question, I'll always seek guidance from the Ethics Commission.
Terrific. Thank you for your answers, Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. Judy, you've done a terrific job in all of your roles over the years. You've been a really important asset to the county at BHI, and you'll leave shoes that need to be filled by someone just as great at BHI, but you're stepping into an important role. You'll be stepping into an important role for the county. So I'm really glad that you will be working, you'll continue your work for the county in a new role, and you're going to be a great addition. So I just want to say I strongly support your work. I've had the chance to sit across the table from you, as you'll recall, working on recruiting companies to consider landing in this county in the bio sector, and you've always been so knowledgeable and also a pleasure to work with. So I look forward to continuing that as we go forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Any other comments from my colleagues? Seeing none. Okay. Ms. Costello, thank you so much. Mr. Fletcher, Ms. Kasiri, thank you for your work on this nomination. And and Mr. Madaleno, welcome. Are you early here for the next issue? Okay, great. Thank you all so much for your work on this item, and we're moving on to the next one. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Same here. Thank you all.
Okay, colleagues, next is the discussion we're having on police response to child elopement from school, policy training, and disciplinary considerations. Welcome, Chief Jones, Dr. Smith, Mr. Madaleno. I think there may be others joining, but I think we can go ahead and get started. Mr. Madaleno, is there anybody else you're anticipating?
Well, from the executive branch, it's myself and Chief Jones. And then from the school system, I'll let Dr. Smith introduce the others from the school system.
Today from the school system, it's just me, President Hucker.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, I think we can start in. I scheduled this briefing following the release on March 26th of body-worn camera footage of an extremely disturbing and outrageous incident that occurred in my district involving 2 officers, MCPS staff, and a 5-year-old boy that occurred back in January 2020. Footage was horrifying and very difficult to watch, and the incident was absolutely unacceptable. I think all of us parents of school-aged children would like to send our kids off into a world where there are really no threats to their safety, but we know that's unrealistic. We expect there will be dangers our children will encounter at some point on the street and at their schools. It might be schoolyard name calling or threats. We hope to avoid more serious problems like bullying, harassment, and verbal abuse. And for that very reason, we pay our taxes and we hire and we pay highly trained professionals, and we volunteer time and pay dues at many civic and PTA meetings. We do all of that in the hopes that working together, we can create a county government and a school system that does everything in its power to minimize the threats to our children. We know there will be some threats and dangers. We want them to be minor and manageable and rare, very rare. But we cannot accept a world in which traumatization and bullying of any child is actually coming from our paid public safety professionals, or one in which our paid public safety professionals not only encourage parents to beat their children, but they even coach parents as to how to strategically avoid creating the physical evidence that would lead to a charge of child abuse. To see law enforcement professionals instruct parents on how to avoid law enforcement is truly shocking and surreal. Nor can we accept a world in which our trained school personnel charged with ensuring our children's safety stand idly by and allow abuse to happen right under their nose in the school office. Multiple systems failed this child in January 2020, and we must all take responsibility for making sure this never happens again. Let me say a few words just about my expectations for this briefing. I know our residents have many important questions about this tragic event. My colleagues and I do as well. The council has been told, and the public should be aware, that we will not receive answers to all our questions today due to pending litigation against the county, the school board, and the individual officers. I've seen tweets already claiming that we can make panelists answer any questions, and that's not true. This is not a courtroom. We are not judges. We cannot compel anyone to answer a question today, but that doesn't mean the council and the public will never receive those answers. Rather, it means we'll receive some answers today, and that there are other answers that will become available once the court case is resolved, which we all want to happen very quickly. And other questions, particularly about personnel actions or about the student who was victimized, are actually restricted by state law. Some individuals had urged me not to hold this hearing until we can receive all the possible answers after the case is resolved, but I can tell you at least 2 reasons that didn't make any sense to me. First, this incident happened over a year ago, and we learned about it in January. The entire council requested to view the video then. We only recently received it. And so, in my view, far too much time has already gone by. So I scheduled this briefing to share with council members and the public the answers that are available today about MCP and MCPS policies and protocols that contributed to the incident and to its delayed communication. We've waited too long to get this information, and we have a responsibility to find out everything that we can now that this has been brought to our attention. And second, this incident informs our ongoing work to reimagine public safety, including policy changes that are underway both at the state and the county level. For me, and I think for many of my colleagues, this underscores why some of us have called for the removal of law enforcement officers from inside our schools in favor of an updated neighborhood-based model to ensure the safety of all our students and our staff. It also illustrates why some of us have called for changes in state law, such as the repeal of the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights, and why we welcome many of the changes that we expect to see this week coming out of Annapolis. But for all of us, it'll inform our work as we consider recommendations from the Police Advisory Commission, from the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force, and other recommendations from the public. So for all those reasons, I scheduled this briefing today to share with council members and the public the answers that are available today. In recent years, our residents have witnessed multiple videotaped interactions with our police officers in White Oak and Aspen Hill and Silver Spring that have left too many of our residents distrustful and afraid, and they contact us every week. While those incidents are not reflective of the work of most of our hardworking officers, on most days, there's no question they're too frequent, and they damage the reputation of our department, and we have to address the policies and the culture that has allowed those interactions. All Montgomery County residents have the right to expect to be met with well-trained, appropriate professionals whenever they need help, whether they're reaching out to our police or to our schools or calling 311 or permitting services. So I hope today's discussion will help us understand what policies were not followed, what will help us as policymakers identify further legislative changes that can be made to keep our community and our children safe, because we all must do better for our children, our schools, and our community. So let's get started. I want to thank all the panelists for joining us today, and I think they've already introduced themselves. So while we're grateful that you're here, there are many questions from my colleagues. And so I'll ask you at the forefront to try to keep your answers brief so we can get to all of the questions my colleagues have and allow for follow-ups. I'll begin with a few of my key questions I have and then turn it over to the chairs of the Public Safety Committee and the Education Committee, and then open it up to my colleagues. And I'll try to enforce the 5-minute rule once we get started. Chief Jones, I think my first few questions are probably best addressed to you. The first is DOJ best practices say investigations should be closed in 90 days. So why did it take over a year to investigate this incident?
So good afternoon, Council President Hooker, and to the rest of the council. First of all, if I could at least begin with an opening statement.
Sure.
As Chief of Police, a father, a 35-year member of this department and community, I understand that this incident has caused great concern by many. I also was concerned and deeply troubled by the actions of my police officers, and that is why a formal internal investigation was conducted. That investigation was completed in accordance with the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights, and the outcome cannot be discussed due to the Maryland Public Information Act provisions regarding governmental employees, including police officers. Council members know of this law and the limitations it places on me in answering specific questions. Although I would love to be able to share this information from the investigation, the law does not allow me to do so. There is pending civil litigation regarding this matter. The council members are aware of that, also limits my ability to answer specific questions. And in response to your question, Council President Hooker, in regards to the DOJ recommended 90 days, which the DOJ agreement was made in 2000. That agreement ended in 2005. Our Internal Affairs Division is led by a captain, a lieutenant, as well as 6 investigators. Within our investigations, we have a caseload for each investigator, carries a caseload of approximately 5 to 6 cases per year. Under the Law Enforcement Officer's Bill of Rights, when a complaint comes to the attention of the police department, we have approximately 1 year from that date to bring charges for any administrative violation against any officer. The 90 days that the DOJ agreed to was, again, a time way before sophisticated technology such as body-worn camera was introduced. And as I noted, we have a caseload for each investigator of 5 to 6 cases. When cases are brought, investigators are already working on some cases that they are assigned, and they are working to address deadlines. These investigations take extensive amounts of time due to the investigators have to interview all witnesses that were involved in any incident. They have to collect evidence. They have to after interviewing all of the parties that were involved, they also have to interrogate each of the officers with representation. Now, it is also required by that investigator to compile an investigative file, which is extremely large. All of your body-worn camera footage has to be documented, transcribed, and based and put into the file for further review. Those investigations, again, take a considerable amount of time. And I want to remind this council that during the beginning of this investigation, when the investigator really began to compile these in interviews and interrogations, we were in the middle of a pandemic. So as the timeline continued to go through with this investigation, the process begins basically once the investigator completes their investigation and completes the entire investigative file. It is then turned over to the director of the Internal Affairs Division for assurance of completion of all of the investigative needs for this particular anything of an administrative violation that may have occurred. Once that is completed, it is then submitted to the commanding officer of the accused officer or officers in a case. The commanding officer then has a timeline to review the case, to go through all of any body-worn camera footage, any other video footage, all transcripts from and interviews, recorded interviews by witnesses as well as the interrogated officers. That takes an extensive amount of time to go through and review the entire file. At which point in time, once the commanding officer has reviewed all of that, they then make a recommendation to what we call an internal review panel. This internal review panel sits under my direction. They are the assistant chiefs of police collectively, along with an assistant county attorney who is assigned to the Internal Affairs Division out of the county attorney's office, as well as the director of internal affairs. The case is specifically reviewed. The investigating officer who did the internal affairs investigation is in the review panel to answer any questions, as well as the commanding officer who may have suggested specific administrative violations committed by officer or officers. That is then reviewed, looked upon, and determined to make a recommendation of discipline to the chief of police. And again, if there is a need for them to review the video, they do that during that internal review panel, which can take, again, some amounts of time and hours of discussion. Once they have come to an agreement, the recommendation is then presented to me as the chief of police, at which point in time I look at the evidence that's presented before me. I look at any charges that were placed. to make a determination of recommendation of discipline. At which point I make a decision. Once that decision is made, then there is a statement of charges that's presented to the officers that are involved. So in these cases, you see that there takes an extensive amount of time for investigative review. One of the main things that I want to make sure people understand, and I want to make sure the council members understand, when we do these reviews, one of the things that's most important for me is to do the review under a fair and just system. And a fair and just system means that, again, we look at past practices, past discipline that has been passed down in these types of cases. When we say these types of cases, these cases that specific charges stem from these types of investigations. And therefore, it must be understood that, you know, I've been around since 1985. And when I first came on this department, there were only 75 African Americans on this police department. And one of the most important things that I used to always hear was about the unfair amount of discipline given to African American officers. And part of this was because there was a system that said that, you know, officers of color were treated differently than white officers. And one of the things I think we've worked really hard at is to create a fair system amongst officers, no matter what the color of their skin is. And one thing I refuse to do is to go back to the days of when I came on the department to create an unfair system. And I want to make sure that when we look at fair practices and discipline amongst our officers, that we are doing it in a fair and just manner. And that I would not be accused, or this department would not be accused of discriminatory practices based upon past practice, as I am well aware of, that will be the judge of any litigation as relates to fair treatment of our officers. So I just want to make sure that that's perfectly clear and a sort of an understanding of where this matter has to go under advisement when I am looking at addressing issues as it relates to discipline on our department.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. President, can I just point out for the public, because the chief just went over in great deal a lot of information. The public might be interested to know that on the county's website, with the police department website, there is an annual report for the Internal Affairs Division that explains the process in narrative form. Residents might be interested in reviewing that report, reviewing the complaint process, which is also summarized in the report and on our website. And also to remind you, if you haven't gotten to it yet, the county executive's budget proposal for FY22 adds 2 additional investigators to the Internal Affairs Division so that we can move through investigations, hopefully in a more rapid basis at the request of the chief.
Thank you. Chief, this incident, it sounds, so just to follow up real quickly, so you're, in a case like this, you're not aware of the specifics of the case and you don't view the video until the internal review panel meets?
So, Mr. Hugger, what happens is I am made aware of investigations that my Internal Affairs Division, which works directly under me, I am aware of allegations. I am aware of if a video does exist, but I am not I don't necessarily view the video all the time on the front end of an investigation. There are times that I don't view the video until it is time for me to review the final discipline that I am going to make. I will then look at the entire video.
At what point were you made aware of this one?
Well, I was made aware of the video when the investigation began.
So the event took place in January 2020. It was reported that the officers weren't interviewed until August. Why would that be?
Again, the interrogation of officers occur at the very end when the investigators have completed all of their interviews with other witnesses and collected all of the evidence. That is the last stage of the interrogation for the officers that are involved.
Thank you. Why didn't you or anybody else from the department feel the need to update the county council at that point?
I did not have the information. I did not see the video up to that point. I was not made aware of the seriousness of the allegations at that point.
But others in the department were at that point. What's the protocol to enforce?
Investigators who were investigating the case were knew of the facts involved in the case as they were doing the investigation.
So thank you. So what's the protocol then for them to inform you and you to inform the council, or at least the leadership and the public safety chair of the...
Mr. Hooker, I am not aware of any protocol involving an internal investigation that requires me to reach out to the legislative branch in order to inform them of an internal investigation conducted by my department. There's nothing in writing. There has been no protocol that I am aware of or any precedent set that we are to inform the county council of these types of investigations.
Okay, thank you. I'll say, as you know, Chief, I've been on the public safety committee as long as I've been on the council, and years ago, shortly after I joined, I wrote a bill to require body cameras I never had to introduce because County Executive Leggett proposed and Chief Manger supported and you supported as commander the creation of a full rollout of body-worn cameras. And I paid great attention to that because it closely followed the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, just a mile from the house I grew up in. And we debated how to set up the program and pay for it and maintain the program for many hours over many work sessions. And my own view, we didn't create that program and spend millions of dollars on it just to create a lot of footage to store in a database and share among police and prosecutors. The discussion at all those work sessions was we were doing it to provide more accountability to the public, to inspire more public confidence in our officers, to engender better behavior, both among members of the public who are being videotaped and our officers in their interactions. And so your comments are helpful. If we don't have a policy that incidents like this are quickly shared with the county council, which is the oversight body, and the public when they happen, then we need to implement a policy like that. But I think that's for discussion in a future public safety meeting. I want to return to a couple questions I had about the body-worn camera practice. Your officers' cameras record thousands of hours of interactions every year. Do district commanders review incident reports and then review body-worn camera footage of incidents that seem like they should be worth review?
Yes. So we have the policy that we have, the more specific policy. There are thousands of hours of body-worn camera footage. I do not have the amount of executives to be able to review hundreds and hours of body-worn camera footage for many of my officers. But we do have a policy that states that whenever we have a reported use of force, that all use of force reports and the events will be reviewed by our executives for review to make sure that the use of force was utilized within the confines of our policy. Anytime we observe a use of force that is outside of the policy or inconsistent, the body-worn camera footage is inconsistent with the police report and use of force report, then that is then sent to the Internal Affairs Division for further review for investigation.
Sorry, how do you know that they're inconsistent with the report?
Well, because my command staff are trained, we know the policy.
Right, okay.
Right, so we know what the policy is, and anytime we see what we deem to be something outside of the use of force outside of our policy, then we send this for further review for the Internal Affairs Division. It's referred to Internal Affairs. So if there's any other complaints or reasons for my executives, we have a collective bargaining agreement with the FOP. that is agreed upon in regards to Article 72 involving the body-worn camera. And there are specific rules about when we can look at body-worn camera footage as executives for what reasons. So there are these stipulations that do, when we look at how much body-worn camera footage we look at and why, it remains within the collective bargaining agreement and our policy.
My understanding is, in this case, though, the union just went along with the investigation and the discipline, right, and didn't hold anything up, did they?
No, there was nothing held up in this case, no.
Right. Are there any random spot checks of body-worn camera footage conducted?
Well, there's no random, no. There's a rule, and again, within our agreement, that states that we will not just randomly look at officers' body-worn camera. But what we do is we want to make sure that officers are operating their equipment properly. So there are reviews that we do from an accountability standpoint to make sure that our officers are in compliance with the usage of the body-worn camera.
Thanks. Okay. What is progressive discipline and how does it work?
So progressive discipline is discipline that basically starts at a low level, depending upon the allegation of the administrative violation. So, for example, if you had someone who violated a policy one day, let's say they failed to come to work on time, as an example. And the first time we might do what we consider to be a counseling session. Let's say they do it again the following week. And then that time, then we may suggest that the discipline goes higher. We already counseled them. So now that we're going to actually hold them, more accountable to any violation that goes, that they continuously repeat. And so if you have an employee that has an officer who has multiple violations, then we can look at from a progressive discipline standpoint, we can go higher in whether we are in the actual discipline as it relates to, for example, how many days of suspension that they might get, depending upon what they got the last time for the same violation or something very similar.
Right. Second or third offenses are punished more severely than first.
That's correct. Yes.
So under that program, that makes sense. What are the fireable offenses?
Well, again, it depends on that becomes when we look at past practice about, things such as integrity, certain, and again, every situation is looked at differently. So to say that anything is clearly defined as a fireable offense, something like an officer committing a felony offense, that can be deemed to be, a fireable offense. Again, lying or being dishonest, those are fireable offenses. But again, these are the things that, again, will be judged not only by the chief of police when seeking termination and for a particular employee, but it also has to be the test of, there are cases where an officer can appeal a final decision either from a hearing board or simply from the chief of police, and they can appeal that to the circuit court. And we've had cases historically in this county where the circuit court has overturned if they deem it to be an overzealous, punishment presented by the chief of police or the hearing board.
So if every situation is looked at differently, as you mentioned, doesn't that make it impossible for an officer to know what actions are absolutely prohibited?
No, because there are many cases that are, we deem to have passed, we know if officers have violated these particular administrative policies in the past, then they can be judged against the same type of violation that was committed. And so we look at sort of the consistency of our punishment as relates to that.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. So many residents have asked me why these two officers are still working for the department. What should we tell them?
I cannot give you that answer due to pending litigation.
Could you tell me whether they are still in roles in which they could be in a position to respond to a call like this one?
They could.
You mentioned our new use of force bill that redefines de-escalation policies. Are all our officers now trained on de-escalation policies?
Well, we have trained in de-escalation for all of our officers. We've been doing that for years. And we will continue to train in de-escalation policy as relates to the bill that was passed last year at 2720. So that will continue as we move forward. But we have been training in many aspects on de-escalation for many years.
Right. We just updated the definition. I agree.
Yes.
So all the officers are trained in that, and it failed in this instance. Is that accurate?
Well, I would say all of our officers are trained in this.
Okay.
I think there's a debate about whether this would be a de-escalation situation or not, but that all of our officers are trained in de-escalation.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Let me call on the chair of the Public Safety Committee, Chairman Katz.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And thank you, Chief Jones and Dr. Smith and Mr. Madaleno, all for being here. You know, I know all of you gentlemen, and I know that though you are limited as to what you can say today because of pending litigation and state law and all involved, I know that each one of you, just like all of us, were and are horribly concerned about the incident that took place and have the greatest desire to correct it, that it never, underline the word never, happens again to any person in Montgomery County, especially a child. And Chief, I sincerely appreciate your answers, because I know that you're limited as to what you can tell us today. And to the council president's point, today is not the only day that this will be a discussion, and it certainly will be an ongoing one as the court cases and whatnot progress. But I guess my first, and you have answered this to a great degree, but let me say before I ask my question, it is my belief that this council and the county executive will provide as much resources as we possibly can to avoid any and all issues like this, whether it be for the Montgomery County Public Schools or the police department. And if internal affairs needs additional investigators, it's not if, it's when now at this point. If you need additional resources because of the time commitment for body-worn camera footage, and to the council president's point, when we said that we were going to fund, not an inexpensive proposition, but when we said we were going to fund body-worn cameras, we knew that there's something involved in each time it's reviewed. It has to be redacted if someone, and we talked about it, I remember it vividly, that if someone goes into a house, a home, and they're using their body-worn camera at that time, that if that person is not properly clothed, that has to be redacted out for all of those reasons. So we knew that there was additional need. We knew that there's additional resources needed. And so we need to continue to do that. So please do not hesitate to let us know how and when we can be of assistance. But let me go, not to actually talk about this incident, because we're limited as to what we can talk about with it, but how is it that once you become aware of the incident itself, I mean, I realize you're someone on staff is not reviewing every second of the body worn camera footage. But once you become aware of it, and once someone files a complaint, how is that handled at that point?
So thank you, Mr. Chair. And if I could, real quickly, when you spoke about the resources that are needed, and Mr. Madaleno spoke to this in the beginning. One of the reasons why we came forward to say that we needed additional assistance in the Internal Affairs Division was I clearly realized that, you know, our investigators are highly taxed with a lot of work behind, and again, partly because of body-worn camera footage, because it takes, and particularly in this case, it was a 51-minute video, which is very long, incredibly long. And so therefore, due to the workload of the investigators, I thought it was important, and the county executive also agreed with me. We've had this conversation about the need to make these investigations more timely, to do our very best to try to lower the amount of days it takes for these investigations to occur. And I agree with that. But at the end of the day, I still want a very thorough investigation that can stand the administrative test. And when I say administrative test, it's going to stand the administrative hearing process as well as our court system, because these administrative hearings can abide into our court system if there is an appeal. So if we don't do our jobs really well on the front end, then these can actually fail, and therefore we failed everyone, and officers won't be held accountable. The other part of that I would also state is about when we look at the redactions. I have one employee for the entire police department who is responsible for redacting videos. And we get video requests from many sources via Maryland Public Information Act. And that employee has to spend a large amount of hours doing this type of work, which is vitally important. So therefore, again, that's when we look at resources, this is something that, you know, it's great that we have this program, but it comes with other caveats to the program in order to provide what people demand in our community and in you know, as it relates to police work in response to these requests. So that's something that we must fully understand. So as it relates to the process of review, when a complaint comes in, and the Director of Internal Affairs will conduct a review of that particular complaint, and they will capture to see if there's body-worn video of the complaint. The video may not necessarily in its entirety be reviewed, but it gives, if we see that there's a basis for the Internal Affairs investigation, that review will begin immediately. Now, it is brought to my attention, but the video may not be necessarily provided to me. And again, partly of this may be, and it's not always the case, but it may be for the fact that I am going to be the final discipline recommender in this particular case. I am going to be the person who provides discipline in any investigation if there is a finding, a sustained charge of any administrative violation. And so one of the things, I want to make sure that I'm doing, like, to be fair and just, and I'm not having outside influence about what I want without a full investigation. Video is great, but video is not all the evidence that's presented in any given investigation. And I think people must understand that video is a great piece of evidence, but it is not the all to the end all. Therefore, that's why it requires other interviews and interrogations and witness statements that help to bring the complete story for me so I can look at all of the facts when I make a determination of punishment if there is a case to do so.
Thank you. And I think, and not that, Mr. President, I don't know whether you're going to hold me to a 5-minute rule. If you are, I will be
very liberal with the chair of the powerful Public Safety Committee.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you being so very liberal with me. And I'll try to be efficient here. I really will. But I do want to, and not that this actually involves directly the chief, but I do believe that this body, our council, along with the county executive, need to have a discussion on a new process for what we are doing. And I think that needs to happen sooner rather than later. And that has, though it's certainly brought to our attention because of this horrendous situation, it is certainly something that goes beyond this situation. We need a new discussion on how we do it. And I had one person ask me about when a child leaves a school, and I know this is getting into the public school side, and Councilmember Rice is going to be asking questions about that. But how often does this happen? How often does a child leave a school, and how often do you need to call the police or whoever you're calling to try to find that child as quickly as possible?
Councilmember Katz, would you like me to respond to that question?
Please.
At the elementary level, it's quite a rare situation. At the secondary level, it's more common, although not regular. It doesn't happen regularly, and it depends on lots of different circumstances. But at the elementary level, it is quite a rare and unusual situation that a child would leave, or that we would need to call for additional support.
The whole idea of the police officer being called in. I had someone ask me why the police were called, and my response on that was that if, in this case, it was a 6-year-old child, but if that child walked out of the school, and as soon as the school found out, as far as I would think, they would call the police, because they want to have as much help as they can possibly have to find that child. And now it was asked whether or not the school resource officer, obviously the school resource officer was not in an elementary school, but whether the school resource officer was also notified. Chief, do you know if that was the case?
No, I don't believe in this particular case the school resource officer was notified for this particular incident.
Well, let me ask one further question, and then I'll turn it back over to the council president. But Chief, if, in your opinion, and Dr. Smith, in your opinions, if there is anything we can do, not necessarily directly involving this case, but because of this incident, that we're now aware of what did and didn't take place, if there's a new protocol that needs to be done for that, we should have that discussion as well. And what I'm talking about is that once the police officers brought the child back to the school, and there again, according to, I watched every second of the footage, and it certainly was extremely disheartening what happened with the child when they were bringing him back even. But once that child was brought back to the school, why wasn't the child why wasn't the school in charge of the child at that point? Why did the police officers stay? And that becomes another question. I don't know if you can answer that or not at this juncture, but I think that's a question that we do need to have a protocol that says that once a police officer brings the child back, that the school would be once again in charge of that child. There can be no answer at this point. That might involve them.
Well, I can't answer it as far as this particular case, but I think it's a discussion that we can have with MCPS moving forward, Councilmember Katz. I think that's something that we can definitely address as far as protocol.
Thank you. Dr.
And I
Smith?
would agree, Councilmember Katz, and I would also say that it's part, the larger question here is how all of this fits together in the conversation that's been ongoing for the last year around the interaction of community, schools, law enforcement, everyone together. And so I think that that's one element of a much larger picture.
Well, as was pointed out, and I'll turn it back over, but as was pointed out, I think every adult in the room and before the room really did a disservice to that young person. And we will, and I underline the word will, work together to make certain that this never, ever happens to any of our children ever again. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Chief, just to follow up on your comment about the policy, what is the policy for not turning your camera on? What is the
policy is you are required to turn your camera on.
Sorry, what's the discipline?
When you respond to any call for service. And when someone doesn't turn their camera on, it is a violation of the policy.
Is there a standard discipline for the failure?
Everything falls under progressive discipline.
Okay.
All violations fall under some form of progressive discipline.
Okay, Chairman Rice.
Oh, Mr. President, can I respond very briefly to Mr. Katz? So, Chairman Katz, I want you to know the county executive agrees with you about relooking these policies, and part of it is we all knew that there would be a review of, broadly speaking, a lot of these policies because of the actions of the General Assembly. And just today, a conference committee was appointed to reconcile the differences between the two chambers. And so hopefully they will have a conclusion to their work. We'll know what the governor's position is, and the changes to state law will demand that we rethink some of our policies. And the county executive looks forward to working with you, with your colleagues, with the police department, and with the community about how we move forward with reimagining public safety with new state laws, the 87 recommendations of the Reimagining Public Safety Work Group, and come to a new consensus about many of these issues.
And I appreciate that as well. And as you know, and I'm sure many people on this call know, the county executive was the chair of the Public Safety Committee prior to him becoming county executive. So he too has a background in this. However, none of us have had a background in exactly what we're going through right now. Thank you.
Yes.
Chairman Rice.
Thank you very much. And so I'm going to try and be quick and go through these. I want to be sensitive to my other colleagues' time. Councilmember Katz touched on the first two, so I'm going to just kind of rephrase them a little bit. And if you could chime in, and this one is for Dr. Smith. What is the policy when a child is missing from or leaves school grounds? What is it that administrators and teachers are instructed to do?
The policy is to find the child and to return them safely to the school or to the family, depending on the circumstances. So immediate notification, attempt to notification of the family. If it's an urgent situation, the school people, first of all, go and look on the school grounds. They sometimes follow students off the school grounds, depending on the circumstances, the age of the child, and all of those things. And they can, call the non-emergency police number, or they can, depending on the severity of the danger or risk, they can dial 911. As was indicated, there is an SRO in every high school in each cluster. They are housed at the high school level, and they do provide support to that cluster, but their primary focus is at the high school.
So that's perfect segue to my next question, because why wasn't the SRO, who is specifically trained to work with students, not called in this incident? Did the school not have a school resource officer assigned to it? Was the school resource officer on vacation or assigned to another case? What was the reason why that school resource officer was not the first phone call?
So as has been indicated today, there are a lot of constraints about responding to some questions. I can't respond to any questions about this specific situation for a variety of reasons. The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, the contractual and legal rights that employees have and the ongoing litigation. Generally, I would say that school resource officers provide a very limited amount of support to elementary schools and not a lot more than that to middle schools overall. And so in this situation, the school resource officer was not notified to my knowledge.
Chief, do you have any information about that and whether or not there is a school resource officer that's assigned specifically to the school? I'm not going to mention the school, although I know it's public, but I don't feel as though any more information, jeopardizing the identity of the child and all of those kinds of things. So, but with this particular school, is there a school resource officer that has this school on their beat?
It's as a part of the cluster. Yes, there is a school resource officer assigned to the cluster.
Do we know if that school resource officer was ever contacted?
I have no answer for that at this point in time.
Okay. Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. So my third question, Dr. Smith, this one's for you. If an administrator, a teacher, or school personnel member feels as though they've witnessed abuse, are they required to report that regardless of whom the perpetrator may be, i.e. police officer?
State law does require the reporting of child abuse.
Was a report filed by? Do you know if do you have any knowledge of a report being filed by any school personnel in this incident?
In this particular situation, I cannot respond to that because of the ongoing litigation.
Okay. And then my last one, Dr. Smith, for you, in watching the video, and I know it's been tough for all of us, and I know this is a hard one because it dovetails on the line, but you being experienced as an administrator, as a teacher, as a person in the classroom, you've done it all. What do you feel could have been done differently by school staff in general? Not in this particular case, but if you had an incident that was similar to this, what do you think steps would have been appropriate in order to ensure the safety and well-being of that child, a child who left the school?
First of all, Mr. Rice, if I could just have 2 minutes to share some opening remarks. Watching the video on March 26, 2021, which is when the Board of Education and the leadership at MCPS, and it was provided to MCPS on that day, as other members of this group have said, was extremely difficult as we watched it. I personally was angry, frustrated, sad, and I continue to feel that way as I think about a child being threatened or demeaned or treated badly. No child is bad, and that it is absolutely essential that we care for the well-being of the students in our care. Certainly, when we think about generally what we ought to be doing, I do believe, and I'm sorry it won't be part of the work, that the restructuring that is going on right now will be useful to the entire school system, all 25 clusters, to really look at how law enforcement, school liaison, police liaisons, and school people work together on behalf of children and adolescents in the support of them in an ongoing way. And I think that involves a lot of the technical things that have been discussed here, as well as a lot of ongoing training in restorative practices, in the well-being of children and adolescents, their developmental levels, all of those things. But it needs to be done together as a team. And that's what I would say in response to your question about what could happen.
You're muted. Are you all set, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yes, Council President, back to you, sir. I'm done. Thank you.
You bet. Councilmember Jawanda.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I appreciate in advance just a little bit, not the same leniency as the chairs, but just a teeny bit. Chief Jones, I want to start with you, and I'll just say briefly, this was a horrific event. I think we've all said that. This was the epitome. If you had a definition of school to prison pipeline, you could slot in this 51-minute video. And you mentioned that it was a very long I think you said it was a very long video to review. Imagine how long it was for this little boy, for this 5-year-old, for whom nearly an hour was yelled at, and every single adult he interacted with, teachers, administrators, law enforcement, failed him. Every system for an hour. And we all know when you're younger how much longer time feels as you get older. 51 minutes of this. So it is a very long time. But I think we need to really focus on, there's been a lot said about, well, there's a lot of video and this was long and it's hard and I didn't know. We need to think about how long it was for this child. And so we're here today to try to get some measure of answers and accountability to find out what happened, why it happened, what policies we can change to make sure it never happens again, realizing how horrific this is, and change those things going forward. I think we realize it's already been elicited that we have state law that will be changing shortly, but that gets in the way of that transparency and accountability. In light of the fact that we've already seen the video. So we're hopeful that will be removed, because you can't have trust without transparency. You can't have accountability without transparency. So Chief, I'm gonna ask you a few questions in succession, and I would just ask that you do your best. I'll do my best to phrase them in such a way that they require, in my view, a yes or no answer, a very short answer. And I would ask that you just work with me, because I've limited time to try to respond in that way, if you could, please, sir. In your opening remarks, you said that as chief of police, as a father, as a 35-year veteran of the police department here in Montgomery County, and I don't want to incorrect you state what you said, but I think you said you were dismayed or you were very disheartened, used some adjective by the actions of these officers. Is that a fair characterization of what you said at the beginning?
To some degree, yes.
Okay. And I assume that means in both your personal and professional opinion, since you mentioned those three roles, father, chief of police, veteran of the force, that was both a personal and professional opinion.
That's correct.
Okay. So these next set of these questions, I want to ask your personal opinion. I'm not asking what you did or didn't do in your official capacity. I'm asking your personal opinion. In your personal opinion, were the officers acting in this video in accordance with police training and policy?
Mr. Juando, I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Due to the pending litigation.
Okay. In your personal opinion, were the officers on camera representative of the police department as a whole?
Mr. Juando, I can't answer that question due to pending litigation.
Okay. In your personal opinion, is there any reason that any adult, let's set this situation aside, any adult should scream at the top of their lungs inches from a child's face for any reason?
No.
No. In your personal opinion, is referring to any child, in particular a black child or brown child, as a beast an appropriate way to speak to a child?
Mr. Juando, I'm not going to answer the question because it still goes to this particular situation. And as much as I would like to present my personal opinion, I am here representing the chief as chief of police of Montgomery County Police. That's my role. And so with all due respect, I would just ask you to keep that in mind.
Well, I understand. I understand
that there is pending litigation. And if I could have that discussion another day, I would. But at this point in time, I can't make that statement.
Okay. So you would agree that adults shouldn't threaten or scream at any child?
I would agree with that, yes.
You would agree with that. Okay. And since state law prohibits you from commenting on what actions, if any, were taken, well, let's just start with that. You did say that there was a disciplinary procedure and action was taken against both officers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I know you can't, according to state law, that hopefully will be changed soon. I think it's important for residents to know that there should be no state law that prohibits the disclosure of how people charged to protect and serve us are disciplined when they don't do that. But that aside, should anyone who has done this activity, any of these activities in any situation that you just stated that you said should never happen, screaming at a child, yelling at them, should they have the honor of serving as police officers?
I can't answer that question.
If so, Leobra's keeping you from, the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights keeping you from answering those questions. Do you support the repeal of this law that does not allow you to answer these questions?
No, I don't support the entire repeal of the LEOBR. No.
What about provisions that would allow you to answer the questions I've asked you directly and others have asked?
If there's questions about whether or not I could speak to the discipline of our officers, I've stated this before in public that I think that police chiefs should have the ability to talk about the discipline of their officers for transparency and accountability. Okay. I've made that statement in the past.
And the discipline that was doled out, again, I know you can't say specifically what happened. In this case, you deem to be appropriate under the circumstances?
I believe it to be fair and just under the circumstances, yes.
Well, it's tough for me to understand that in light of what we saw and what you've just stated. They seem to be contradictory.
Well, I don't think it was contradictory to the first statement that I made to Mr. President Hooker as we look at what we talked about, fair and just treatment of all officers on this police department.
Right. Well, I understand that. I was going to ask you about that. It seemed to be that you suggested that in light of a good goal, I would also say to have fair and just discipline for all officers, regardless of their race or gender or sexual orientation or gender identity or religion, any part of their demographic background, that you see this incident or this case or this set of disciplinary decisions in the context of these officers being Black. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, please don't. And I appreciate that, because that's not the way that I view this. It has nothing to do about the discipline for these particular officers were not done based upon their race.
So then what did you mean by that statement, that you're sensitive to Black officers when you came on the force having disparate discipline? I want to understand what you meant when you said that then.
Well, I think it's the goal, Mr. Jawando, that I always hear you speak about people of color being treated in a fair and just system. And so the fact that these officers are of color, but they're still going to be treated in a fair and just system. And so when we look at that in the history of this department and how people have been treated, again, in a fair and just system, that is what I am going to maintain.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't disagree with you at all. You're right. I do think everyone should be treated fairly and equally. I just think if we are saying that an officer, and I'll say it's my opinion, I've said this publicly, anyone that handcuffs a child, calls them a beast, screams in their face, several of these things you said should never happen to any child, that person or persons, regardless of their race or ethnicity or any other factor, they do not deserve the honor of protecting and serving the residents of Montgomery County. That's my opinion. And I know that's not something.
Understood. That's understood.
And last thing I'll ask you, sir, is when were you made aware of the incident again, and when did you request the footage? That was asked, but I didn't understand it. It happened January 2020. When did you see the footage for the first time?
I saw the footage later in the year when it was time for me to review the investigation, which was probably around December.
So almost a year had gone by.
Almost, yes.
And no one prior to that point had flagged for you, hey, this is something that was pretty horrific. You heard Dr. Smith talk about the rarity of a student walking out of the building. I would hope it's a rare occurrence that a 5-year-old is handcuffed, and what we saw happened. No one flagged it for you saying, hey, you might want to look at this before then.
No, I was made aware of the incident, but the entire video had not been reviewed. The point you're making about the handcuffing of the child, all of those things came to light later. But again, as I noted, as it relates to how I go about making a determination once I hear the whole story, putting the video together with the story to make a decision in response to discipline.
Okay. And I just have two questions for Dr. Smith, and then I'll yield, Mr. President. Thank you. Dr. Smith, you said that I appreciated your opening statement about how this made you feel. I've still yet to watch it continuously because of just how hard it is to watch. I have to break it up in pieces. Isn't it currently prohibited in the MOU that MCPD and MCPS has to not have police officers involved in student discipline?
Yes.
So then any situation in which an officer was involved in student discipline, that would be a violation of current MCPS policy in light of that MOU.
It's currently in the MOU that police officers are not involved in discipline. That's a fact.
Okay. All right. And then my last question, has any mental health or social emotional support been offered to this child or this family in light of the trauma that was inflicted?
I cannot answer specifically because of the ongoing litigation and because of FERPA. What I can tell you is generally in situations in the school system when there is known trauma, we do reach out in a variety of different ways with the family and the student involved in the situation. In general, that happens on a consistent and regular basis.
Okay. And are you relieved of any abilities? This is my last question. Are you relieved of your ability to answer any of these questions about specifically what happened in the actions you took, Dr. Smith, to either investigate or take any action in regards to employees that you have in regards to this situation?
So I can't speak about anything specific. What I can tell you is the incident occurred in January of 2020. We became at MCPS, the Board of Education and I, and the leadership became aware of it in January of 2021. We began an investigation at that time. And then when we received the video footage on March 26, 2021, we began to re-examine what we knew based on being provided the video footage.
All right. Well, this system's obviously broken in that you didn't find out for a year and didn't see the footage until the day we saw it. We got to fix all of that, and I agree with my colleagues' statements on that, and we will do that work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. Thanks for scheduling this session. There's a lot going on here. First of all, to say the obvious, this is a very unsatisfying conversation. We're not getting a lot of information. The public is not getting a lot of information. There's two reasons for that. Some of that is state law. The chief cannot share with us what discipline was handed down in this case because of the Maryland Public Information Act. And that law needs to change, and hopefully it will change in Annapolis. But that is an essential question that I have. I am concerned that this incident was not treated with the seriousness that it deserves. And it was reported up through that, well, there was some kind of incident with a child, and then it was sort of let go. And we didn't hear about it until 7 months later. The second reason that we're not getting information is because everyone's hiding behind this lawsuit. Okay. We need to stop hiding behind this lawsuit. The county government needs to stop hiding behind this lawsuit. What happened, happened. And what we say about it doesn't change the facts. So the county executive needs to stop hiding behind the lawsuit, share information with us. The department needs to treat this differently as well. And the county is defending MCPS. So I am sympathetic more to MCPS's posture that they're not able to make as much of a decision about what they say because they're not the ones liable. That's why the county needs to step up here and admit some facts that are obvious that we all know. This child was treated in a horrible manner. It was a terrible, terrible offense to this child. And there are racial dynamics to why he was treated that way, as Councilmember Jawando has said publicly, I'm afraid that he was perceived as, differently because he is a Black boy, and that's wrong. It should never happen. And, we have to acknowledge these problems and try to deal with them. And while we're all sitting around saying, well, we can't talk about this and we can't talk about that, we're not moving forward. We're just potentially perpetuating the problem. So, the video was held back for far too long. The case was not acknowledged publicly. And there are far too many questions today that can be answered legally. They might confirm that what we all know is true, but by answering them, they would advance the conversation. Second broad point I want to make here is that we are experiencing the catastrophically flawed disciplinary system that the FOP has created through the collective bargaining agreement and through the Maryland legislature. And, the fact that the process takes so long, that, there's so many levels to it. But the fact that we don't know any information about it, that it takes so long, and the chief did allude to a lot of those elements. And, I continue to be very frustrated that the legislation that I introduced with co-sponsorship from Councilmember Jawando, and Councilmember Rice is the co-lead, Councilmember Jawando, Councilmember Navarro, was not moved forward. And in fact, the county executive said, hold off on this until the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force can weigh in. And then the task force failed to take up the issue of discipline, has not a single recommendation on discipline. And here we are today, dealing with the consequences, not being able to make changes, and hoping that Annapolis, makes better changes. Fortunately, I appreciate the chair now, Mr. Katz has expressed we're going to return to this, and thank you. And there are, elements of this bill we can move forward all the same. But, we could have had a different system in place already. Wouldn't necessarily have affected this case, acknowledge that, but it would have given us a better response to the public than we don't know, we can't say, which it feels like where we are now. The last thing I want to say is about the challenging issue of police officers in schools. And I think this really goes to both the chief and the superintendent. And I appreciate Councilmember Navarro's support now to make a change here. It's been helpful, and the county executive expressing interest in making a change after several years of back and forth. We need to design a matrix for things that happen at schools, and then very clearly delineate who will respond to those kinds of issues and prescribe why it will not be police officers. There may be a role for police officers, coaching, showing up to coach in their off-duty time, providing some of that mentorship that is so important for some. But there really shouldn't be a need to contact officers if we have a functioning system of professionals surrounding every child, available to surround every child, with a very knowledgeable response. And unfortunately, in this case, I think it's not an example of an SRO failure per se, but it is an example of not having a proactive strategy in the school system for how to respond to incidents without calling the police. And I think if we had that model, if administrators and teachers and everyone was trained in a proactive approach for kids where police are the last resort, we would have known. They would have known how to handle this case. They would have walked out to the curb when that officer pulled up when those officers pulled up in that car, and they would have said, "We'll take the child. We'll take the child now." And if the officers had proceeded with any of what happened, they would have shut that down. And of course, the officers wouldn't have done it, because the officers would have. That's a whole nother issue. But I really do envision a day when whatever happens, any kind of incident that happens, there are security staff, principals, media assistants, teachers who know what to do and know how to handle the situations without calling for police. And I think we can get there. And I hope we'll use this terrible incident as an inspiration and call ourselves to a higher goal here, that we devise a model for our schools and our community that can really use police for youth as a last resort. Back to the basic point, we've got to disclose more information in this case. Chief, when was I'm unclear when a complaint was filed. I understand it took 7 months before there was an interrogation, but when was the complaint filed that triggered the investigation, or what triggered the investigation? Chief Jones.
Give me 1 second. The complaint, I believe, was filed in late January of 2020.
So that was the same month as the incident itself.
That's correct.
And so it did take 7 months for the internal affairs process to conclude. Is that what? Please walk us through the timeline without obviously sharing whatever you can. Walk us through the timeline of the process.
Well, again, Mr. Reamer, I've noted what the process is. So the process is a complaint comes in, it is assigned to an investigator. At the time that it's assigned to an investigator, the investigator who has cases that are already pending, it basically has to make a decision on when that investigation begins based upon the current workload of that particular investigator. And I am reminding you all once again that we began a pandemic. We sent police officers home who were non-essential employees in late March and April of last year. And we had to reimagine how we were actually working. So we had to do interviews and the like to do the investigation during that period of time with the existing investigations that were going on at that particular time.
Okay. Well, I think the case was not treated with the urgency that it needed. Unfortunately, I think it's, for some reason, it wasn't viewed as the clear, it's physical abuse to put a 5-year-old child in handcuffs, and it is psychological abuse to do what was done to that child. And I think in the event that government officials are, found to be abusing a child, there should be very assertive action by the government. And unfortunately, it just doesn't feel that was the result here. And at the end, there's comments about training and so forth that are really insufficient. All right. Well,
thanks. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it goes without saying that this has been a very disturbing situation, and a lot has been said during this session. I do believe that in the past, this council has also held closed sessions whenever litigation is proceeding, because there are some things that perhaps the oversight body needs to understand that we're not able to get the answers publicly. So I believe that Council Vice President Albornoz has also requested that, and I hope that we can have a follow-up to understand that fully. And so again, a lot has been said already. I'm not gonna belabor a lot of the points that have been discussed, only to say that there are indeed many layers or many pieces of legislation, both at the state level as well as locally. But as I reflect on what occurred and what should not have occurred, I hope that as we work through the budget now, that my colleagues will seriously consider the proposal that I shared with all of you regarding the SRO alternative model, which incorporates many of the elements that Councilmember Jawando, Reamer, Rice, Katz, really all my colleagues, Councilmember Glass, we have all discussed this issue from a lot of different perspectives. And the model that I shared with my colleagues basically recognizes that there is a need to enhance the capacity of our school system to have more mental health supports, to have more positive youth development supports, for there to be an agreement in a memorandum of understanding with our police department as to what are the kinds of incidents or offenses that warrant the participation or the calling of a police officer into the school building, but that this cluster model or community model that the executive has proposed should also have mental health professionals included in that team, so that you have both on the outside and on the inside that kind of focus. That is really important. And we saw this in this instance. I mean, I literally, I still am pretty speechless about what obviously occurred, because I'll say it again, as a mother of two very beautiful, wonderful Afro-Latina daughters who went through the school system, I just can't imagine how I would react having, watched this video, but very much recognize that we do need to move forward with a different way of building capacities with both within the school system and outside. That we need to recognize, in my opinion, this was a very extreme incident, but it happened when it shouldn't happen. And in the same vein, as we talk about what are we going to do next, then yes, we have to address issues of, discipline and public information sharing, all of those things. But we also have to recognize, we all have, when we looked at the data, that there is a need to enhance that kind of, mental health supports, positive youth development within the schools and outside of the schools. And so I do hope that the council leadership will put into place a process so we can at least address this now that we're in budget. And as this case moves forward, that we will continue to work actively with our Board of Education, as well as the administration, the Chief of Police in particular, to absolutely guarantee that this will never happen again. The fact that it involved a child was just mind-blowing to me, because there is no circumstance by which I can, think that somehow this was acceptable at all. I mean, there just isn't whatsoever. So we need, we have some work to do. And so for the public, who obviously, as it was stated, there aren't a lot of answers today because there is litigation. I think for the public, it's important for them to know that we do have in front of us right now a number of important pieces of legislation, a number of important program modifications, if you will, that I think will set the stage to avoid that things like this could occur in the future. So I'm not gonna, involve myself in the questioning because I already know what are the bounds and what it is that we're gonna, achieve here. Only to say also that I am also confident that our chief of police, as well as our superintendent and really the leadership in general, understands how important it is that our public regain the trust that something like this will never happen again in Montgomery County. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are here because we failed that 5-year-old child. That is very simply stated why we're here. And looking back a little bit, over the last 2 years in particular, the county established a police advisory commission. And I was proud to co-sponsor Councilmember Reamer's legislation that established that body. And across the street, the executive created the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force. And some residents told me that they thought there were too many boards, too many commissions, and that we didn't need them. But here we are, having a very difficult conversation about how our current police force operates and what we need to do better. And earlier in this conversation, Chief Jones, I was listening to comments you said, and you said that all officers are trained in de-escalation. But what we witnessed was not the result of the lack of training, because I'm not quite sure what there was to de-escalate. The officers were dealing with a 5-year-old child who was crying. And I don't think a police officer, or quite frankly anybody, needs to be trained in how to deal with a child in need. There's just some common sense with that. And in fact, that child was so small that while he was being placed in the back of the police car, after watching the video a few times, I noticed that the seatbelt was placed over his neck. And when the 5-year-old child was buckled up, you can see that the seatbelt is nearly covering his face. And so just trying to understand more aspects of how we unfortunately deal with this so that we don't have to deal with the situation again. Chief Jones, what is the protocol when police officers pick up a child and essentially restrain him in a police vehicle?
Well, the protocol is again, when you look at, there's nothing that says, we don't have anything that's in writing, Mr. Glass, that gives any specific protocols. We expect our officers to follow, the law, and we put our child in a car, and depending on the circumstances, we want to make sure that we're following the law. My understanding is that the location where the child was picked up was only a couple of blocks away from the school. So they were very nearby to the school. And so the officer, I assume, will place the child in with the seatbelt on in order to transport back to the school.
Okay, because I guess if we're resting on the fact that it was only a few blocks away, and thankfully there was no other incident in the vehicle that would further damage that boy. If that's what we're resting on, so be it. But as we think about the different protocols and rules of engagement that need to be established here, I would add this to the list of, for the unfortunate incidents, if there are any incidents worthy of it, of a child being placed in a vehicle like that, best practices, if that is a term that can be applied here. And I have a question for Dr. Smith as well. I appreciate my colleagues asking about MCPS's role here, and I'm not quite sure I was satisfied with the responses, and I understand the lawsuit, but what I'm really trying to understand is how a school official can watch what was happening and being in such proximity to the vitriol that was being placed upon, shouted upon, physically placed upon this child. What is MCPS's role essentially in this incident?
I certainly understand your question. I understand your consternation. And in a different circumstance, I could provide you with thoughts about that and responses. At this moment, both because of the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act and because of the ongoing litigation, I really can't describe specifically about this event. But that should in no means indicate to you that I don't want to and that I do not have a lot of thoughts and emotions about this situation.
Okay. As my colleagues have shared, whether these conversations have to go into closed session until the lawsuits are settled, or we have other conversations in more public settings. Quite frankly, the law has changed in Annapolis, as has been mentioned, and I will just, in closing, add my voice to that chorus that it is very frustrating to try and have this conversation, in addition to all of the other incidents that have taken place over the course of recent history, where under the existing legal framework, the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights and the Maryland Public Information Act prevents elected officials and the general public from obtaining basic information about the actions and backgrounds of our officers. And this is information that deserves to be made public, because quite frankly, without this information, without access to an officer's professional work history, we don't know what has taken place. We don't know who to hire. We cannot heal the relationship between the police and the communities in which they serve. And that's what this conversation is all about. It's all about trust. And quite frankly, it's about the breach of trust, the loss of trust, and this little 5-year-old boy, because we are better than this, and we have to make our situation better than this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember. Dr. Smith, let me just, while we're on that point, ask a more general follow-up question that I think you could answer. According to the 2016 report on the school-to-prison pipeline, school support teams are supposed to be in place at each school to address behavioral issues. If that is the case, has or can MCPS leadership commit to limiting when staff are allowed to call police or make police referrals at appropriate events?
I think that very question would be one of the ones that are central to the work that is going on right now and needs to occur as quickly as possible around the issues of resource officers and school professionals. I very much appreciated the way Councilmember Navarro talked about inside and outside working together. Mm-hmm. And right now it's inside working and outside working, and then sometimes working together and sometimes bumping into one another.
Right. So no limitation like that's already in place.
No.
Appropriate in the future.
No limitation is in place specific to that.
What do you think is appropriate in the future, it sounds like?
I think it needs to be an essential part of this work.
Great. Councilmember Friedson, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I said before, I'll say again, that this was a complete failure by everybody involved, and it is deeply disturbing and utterly unacceptable that a 5-year-old child was threatened and dehumanized by the very adults responsible for his safety, hurt by the public officials who have been placed as a government to help him. And I'm not going to ask about the specifics, but I just wanted to point that out. That means the school system, that means the police department, that means everybody involved, and they must be held accountable for their actions. I'm not going to get into specifics of it, but I did want to say that I do agree with Councilmember Navarro and Council Vice President Albornoz and Councilmember Glass and others about the need for a closed session. I think this public conversation is important to have, but most of the questions that we have, that residents have, can't be answered here for legal reasons, based on lawsuits, based on legal framework. But I find the notification to the council thus far to have been inadequate and unacceptable.
And there is no reason why we can't receive those answers in a closed session while protecting the legal rights that employees have and that need to be safeguarded. So I will just add my voice to that. I did have some specific questions. Many colleagues have answered questions that I did have, but the first is, what is the current process and existing protocols for notifying MCPS central office or administrators when a student is missing or leaves school premises unaccompanied, or when police are called to the school? I think that's for Dr. Smith, if you can answer it.
Okay, yeah.
Not about this particular incident, in general. What is the policy when a student goes missing? A student unauthorized, unaccompanied has left the premises. Police have to be called. There's an incident at the school. What is the process based on MCPS policy for when, how, and under what circumstances the administration beyond that school leadership would be called?
So there's a serious incident report that is made about any situation that occurs where a student leaves campus, either with adult knowledge, or it's realized that the student is missing without adult knowledge. If the adults are engaging with the student outside the school building or beyond the school property, then all of that is reported to the director of that school. So each school has a school director they work with, and then that information goes into a serious incident system that makes us aware that it happened. And as you can imagine, when you look across all the serious incidents, there are dozens, if not hundreds of those a week of different, because they range all sorts of incidents. A fire alarm was broken. There was a altercation on school grounds. There was an event at a sporting event. So, but the serious incidents are tracked and reported and followed up on.
And is there a point at which a serious incident that numbers to the hundreds a week is elevated beyond that? Is there a category for that, or it's a case-by-case basis?
It depends on the circumstance of the situation. And, I see them all. I get them all in my email. I read them all. And sometimes I inquire about what it is. Other times it's brought to me, and other times it's handled at the school director level or the area associate superintendent level. And then I'm not further informed about it.
Without asking you to go into the specifics of this particular incident, what level of detail does that have?
Very limited detail, like a small paragraph.
So would it say whether or not police were called to the scene?
Typically it would. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the timeline that we heard earlier was that the incident was January 2020. A report was filed internally with the police department in late January of 2020. That it wasn't until January of 2021 that you and the Board of Education was made aware of that. Could you just explain the difference between the serious incident report and being aware of this incident?
So it was reported in the media in January of 2021, and there were more facts that came out from other sources in that media report. And that's when we went back and looked to see, what we knew, and then started doing a further investigation of what took place in January of 2021. And then up to that, during that time, we took no specific action. And then when the video was provided to us on March 26th, we reviewed the video and began to re-examine the circumstance given the videotape footage.
So just to clarify, just to make sure, so you were aware in 2020, January of 2020, that there was an incident based on the fact that a serious incident report would be submitted, but you weren't aware of the severity and the specifics of this particular incident until the media reports were publicized in January of 2021?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. For Mr. Madalino, at what point was the county executive, you or a member of the executive branch outside the police department notified about this particular incident?
We learned about it when when the Bethesda Beat article ran on January 22nd of 2021. So when the lawsuit was filed.
Okay, so you were not aware, nobody in the executive branch outside the police department was aware of this incident in the school and a potential lawsuit being filed until the lawsuit was filed. And you learned about it from a news article, not from legal correspondence from an attorney?
Correct. And the county attorney's office did not learn about it until the paperwork with the lawsuit was filed.
Okay, so prior to that, this was a personnel matter. This was deemed a personnel matter within the police department that was under investigation. It wasn't until the Bethesda Beat article that came out in January of 2021 that this became a legal matter and also potentially a personnel matter related to the school system employees. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Katz noted this earlier, but given that the MOU between MCPS and the police department dictates that police officers are not to be involved in student discipline, not related to this particular case, but the broader policy, what is the current policy related to police being called to a school? At what point after securing a scene or investigating a matter or ensuring the safety of a missing child are police expected to remain on a school site? What is the policy under the current MOU?
No, that's going to depend on the circumstances involved in the situation. And, it's typically it would be some sort of conversation between the folks at the school and the police officers about ending the situation, whatever it is. And it's going to be different based on the facts of the situation every time.
And what does ending the situation constitute? Just in broad policy terms, if the student is missing and they're brought back to the school, is the incident ended at the point at which the student is safely and securely in the school, or is it not ended until a parent shows up on the scene? Or are there particular policies related to that, or that's not specified?
That's not specified. It's depends on all of the factors involved in the situation. Always.
Is it common practice for a police officer after a missing child, particularly an elementary school child, leaves the site for the police officer to remain on scene until a parent or guardian shows up to school? Is that common based on school policy?
That's not required. No, that's not required.
Okay. I have a lot more questions. I will hold off on them. Many of them I think would be more appropriate for a closed session. So I will reiterate that I think that it is beyond appropriate. I think that it's overdue, quite frankly. And I think that residents deserve to know that their duly elected council members are able to ask the questions that they're not able to hear themselves due to legal restrictions and pending lawsuits. So thank you, Mr. President.
Agreed. Happy to schedule a closed session as soon as next week. Council Vice President Albernoz.
Okay, thanks, Mr. President. I'm last here and a lot's been said. A lot of good questions have been asked. I very much understand and respect the boundaries that have been set before us, both in terms of policy. Some of it crosses over to the state, some of it crosses over to personnel issues, and obviously pending litigation. So I know there's not much more we can disclose here, and quite frankly, I appreciate both Chief Jones and Dr. Smith coming forward and responding to as much as they've been able to respond to. And clearly, there will need to be follow-up with regards to this specific investigation. And it's our job as an oversight body to ensure that the systems that clearly failed in this case, failed a 5-year-old little boy, are addressed in a way that's holistic, in a way that's comprehensive, in a way that has a deep-rooted impact to absolutely be sure that, for God's sakes, this never happens again. And, you know, this was before the pandemic. We have thousands of kids that are coming back into our school system that have experienced substantial social and emotional challenges this year, to the point that it's difficult for all of us to be able to entirely process, especially those of us with kids right now. And I have a 5-year-old at home. And so there's a lot obviously to unpack here, and we will continue to unpack it moving forward. But I'm just going to make a few comments, and most of those comments are mostly going to be where we go from here. But clearly this incident was totally and utterly indefensible. This is not at all consistent with my personal and professional interactions that I've had with Montgomery County Police. As the director of the Recreation Department, we ran after-school programs, the largest provider of after-school programs, and there were numerous interactions that I personally witnessed of law enforcement engaging with youth in a way that was productive, in a way that was consistent with best practices around positive youth development, and formed a team of caring adults that included school administrators, teachers, after-school workers, social workers, community-based organizations, parents, families, all working together to provide as much as support as we could for these children. And what I saw on that video was horrific. It made my stomach turn, and it even recalled an incident when I was around that age in which we went on a school field trip, and I escaped as a 5-year-old, and it was actually a police officer that found me. I'm 45 years old now, and I still remember that incident, how traumatic it was, how scared I was being away from the adults that were responsible for taking care of me. And I still remember how caring that police officer was that responded to that case. That officer treated me with love and kindness and a level of respect that I still remember 40 years later. And I can't even imagine what I would have processed as a child then. And now as a parent, now as Councilmember Navarro said, if that were our child, how we would have reacted to that case. I've spoken to officers who feel the exact same way. And so there's obviously so much that we need to learn from this case, so much that needs to be unpacked so that people are held accountable. But I think that we can move forward from here. And I have read Councilmember Navarro's proposal, which I think has a number of excellent elements that do take into account the best possible elements of positive youth development, continuing that ecosystem and expanding it in a way that I think is going to provide a great deal of support. And I do look forward to supporting that. I have some suggestions to add to it a little bit, which I'll talk about at a later time. But I do think we need to follow up with this session in a manner that is more appropriate for us to be able to answer questions that don't trigger some of those boundaries that, again, I believe and I understand and respect at this time. This council unanimously supported a crisis intervention enhancement at all of our police precincts that include social workers, and clearly we need a similar model within our school system, because as I stated earlier, we're at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what our kids are going to need as they come back to school. And so I do think this is a moment for us to be able to move forward from. As I said, within an hour of seeing the video and then us serendipitously having a council session just immediately after that, and all of us, I think, were processing the video in real time. And I said then, and Councilmember Glass said now, that we are better than this. And I truly believe that. We are better than this. And so we will move forward from this as well. Thank you, Mr. Council President. I have found this to be enlightening and helpful, and I look forward to the follow-up, both with regards to this specific investigation, once there's an appropriate time and place for us to be able to get more questions answered, but even more importantly, in my opinion, how to address these systemic issues moving forward. Thank you.
Agreed. Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. Two final points. I just want to say again, the conversation necessarily turns to police in schools. And I really encourage us working with the school system to devise a matrix of incidents and then identify professionals who respond to those incidents and delineate the role for police and ultimately not have a role for police officers. It may take a bit of time to get to that point based on training for other staff. And then I would support programs that are specifically around mentorship, specifically around youth engagement. I think there's a role there, but we ought to take advantage of this moment here to make a change and recognize that, there are ways, there are enough adults in a school to respond to incidents, and that we need to train all the professionals, administrators, security, teachers, everyone in a different approach. And if we can achieve that, then we won't need to rely on police officers. In this very specific case, if a child leaves a school who's 5 years old, you need to call 911. I don't think there's any question about that. If it was my child who left the school at 5 years old, I would want to know that the police had been called. I don't know what alternative there is unless there would be crisis units that would be available that are not police officers. But it's inevitable that in this case, a child, having left, unless I don't understand the facts of the case, which is possible, the child left and the administrators were concerned that the child is missing. No parent would want their child wandering around without someone finding them, and so 911 was called. But I think there is a tremendous public need to understand how this incident is handled by the county government and the department. And unfortunately, due to the MPIA rule, not the O board, but MPIA, the Maryland Public Information Act, the chief cannot share publicly any information about the disciplinary decision that was made. That may change. There is legislation in the State House right now that needs to change. The county council took a position on that almost 2 years ago. The county executive actually, when we brought the legislation before the council, the county executive took no position, refused to support the legislation. So my question is for Mr. Madaleno: has the county executive expressed support for changing the MPIA law that shields the disciplinary process from public scrutiny? And if so, how?
I don't mean to be difficult, Councilmember Reamer. I'll have to get back with you on that answer because I don't, off the top of my head, I simply don't know the answer.
It was before your time. However, I would hope that this would be a live conversation that would have risen to your level at this point, and you would know what we are doing right now to advance MPIA reform in Annapolis, with the county executive's support. So unfortunately, I would appreciate if you could respond to us subsequently. But again, back to our task. If we could work together with schools and the county government to devise a matrix that provides a way forward that does not rely upon police, I think that would be the ideal outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Navarro.
Very quickly to respond to what Councilman Reamer was saying, that is included in the proposal. Also, what is included is an annual report that the school system actually requested with data that actually to make sure that we understand the type of calls that have resulted in police officers being included, but the issue of defining what would be the circumstances for which police officers can be called or this team is important. This is something that we have heard time and time again. It also includes work so that within the school system, there is awareness of the resources that we have available. And that is for everyone, teachers, everybody. So there are components as well as the training, specifically what Councilmember Rice and Katz had put forward. That training is included. So it is comprehensive in that way. And as Councilmember Albornoz said, there are going to obviously be other things that colleagues may want to add to that. But just wanted to mention that what you're alluding to is addressed.
Would it be okay if I responded briefly?
Really quickly.
Yeah, I appreciated the aspect of your proposal that said we shall delineate the offenses for which police officers can be called. I thought that was an important step forward and conceptually right on the money. So thank you for that. I believe that we need to take that further, but let's dive deep on that very focus, because I think that is the answer, is let's figure out when police should be called, and hopefully we will agree that that will be a minimal, to ultimately non-existent set of offenses. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I think that it's important to recognize that there have been efforts in the past, specifically with the Kennedy Cluster Project as it was first envisioned, to have this type of interdepartmental, collaborating with community-based organizations, with agencies, developing MOUs and things of that sort. And so this framework in some ways, which was based on the Harlem Children's Zone, it's one that I think will be really important as we seek to kind of, match what public safety should look like in today's society. So again, it is, and of course, this is the framework. So it means that council members, community members, et cetera, can still incorporate other things to it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jawanda.
Thank you. I just want to make 2 quick points. I think, I focused most of my time, because it was quick, on the harm, the failure of the systems and the people for this child, the discipline that was or was not doled out and whether it was sufficient or not, and the accountability and transparency to the public, which is extremely important. I just want to underscore that. That is extremely important and connected to everything that we've talked about for the last 30 minutes or so, which is why when we put forward the proposal to remove police from schools, firstly, almost a year ago, last summer, and when I proposed it in a budget amendment, then later as a bill with Councilmember Reamer, 3 special appropriations, which have now passed, one of which is the largest investment in restorative justice training that the county has ever done, to train 1,400 school staff at all of our middle schools. That recognized and underscored the fact that you can't do these things in isolation, and that we have to have a comprehensive plan. And so we have to do both of these things. In closed session, I want to thank the colleagues who said about the closed session, we have to find out what happened. If we can't know on behalf of our representatives, that the constituents that we represent, that's a failure in democracy. So we have to have a way to legally know. And so closed session seems right to me. I do think this session was still important, so folks know why we can't get answers to certain questions right now in the public setting, but we need to know, and we need to get to the bottom of it, because you can't get to the bottom of it if you don't dig into what happened in all these specific incidents and look at the horror of it, right? But then we have to continue the conversation that we've been having since I've gotten on the council and before that, to move these systems in a way that minimize the disparate impact of discrimination and racism, and how certain people are perceived, and how discipline is doled out differently, and the supports that are available, the social, emotional, mental health, all of which we've been doing. And so I appreciate the, people coming on board and everyone wanting to do that, but you have to do both at the same time. And I think we've already been on that path, and we're going to need the school system. We're going to need our HHS department. We're going to need almost every entity, our rec department. Every entity in government has a role to play. So this is a monumental task, and work has been ongoing, but we're at an inflection point where we can no longer just say we're going to take steps forward. We have to fundamentally reimagine the system. So I'm all in for the work, as I continue to be, and happy to continue to work with anyone to do it, and appreciate Dr. Smith and Chief Jones for coming before us today. Thank you.
I think we all are. Councilmember Rice.
Yeah, so thank you, Councilmember Giwando. I think that, again, this gives great pause. This is a tough one because it's one in which I've always been a strong supporter of our police and the great role that they play and how they keep our communities safe, primarily our communities of color. But when we have missteps like this, gross missteps like this, that jeopardize the future of a child, because when you have an impact like this on a 5-year-old boy, there is no question that just as we remember things that we experience positively throughout our lives, we know that this young child is going to remember this incident for the rest of his life. As you heard from Councilmember Albornoz, as you heard from others, reflect on stories that they talked about, that this one is going to be something that sticks with him. And I know that by saying that, I help to further, some sort of cause when it comes to, but that's the reality. I mean, we all as parents know that our children remember events, some of them happy and some of them traumatic. And so there's such a weight that is there in terms of each interaction that our adults have with our young people. And we need to make sure that each of those interactions is cautious and measured, that it's delineated very clearly so that we can ensure that things like this don't happen again. And so it gives me some reflection, certainly one in which I really want to understand how it is that we move forward. And I appreciate Councilmember Navarro and her thoughts when it comes to how to shape. I appreciate the county executive and his proposals in terms of what he's thinking, and the police chief in terms of what he's thinking in terms of truly reimagining what our police force is like, both to help and support and keep our communities safe, but at the same time also ensuring that things like this just don't happen again. It's very clear that we are going to have to draw more stringent lines to make sure that it is clear that these types of things are not allowed to move forward, not supported, and we won't protect those who actually perpetrate them. And so from that perspective, I look forward to working with my colleagues. I look forward to the closed session where we can get a few more questions answered. But really just want to thank everybody for their conversations today. And it's given me a lot to think about. So thank you.
Indeed. Thank you. Indeed. All of us have made a commitment to do our best to ensure an incident like this never happens again. We all agree the public deserves as much transparency regarding this incident and future ones. I think this was very helpful to all of us and to the public, and we look forward to finding out additional details in closed session and doing everything possible to make sure every individual involved is held accountable. All county staff know our clear expectations for appropriate and respectful interaction with children and youth. Thank you all for participating. Thank you, Dr. Smith, Chief Jones, Mr. Madaleno, everybody else that was here. Colleagues, we got to move on and pass 2 bills in 25 minutes before our colleagues have a hard stop. Thank you all for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have legislative session for day 9. The call of bills for final reading. The first is Bill 421, Weapons, Protection of Minors in Public Places, Restrictions Against Ghost Guns and Undetectable Guns. Let me recognize the Public Safety Committee Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I will be brief. The Public Safety Committee did recommend enactment of Bill 421. Councilmember Vice President Albornoz was the sponsor of it and is a member of that committee. The only we did have with some amendments to be consistent with the scope of state preemption and delete from the bill references to gun manufacturing. But other than that, we voted unanimously to enact the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me call on the sponsor of the bill, Council Vice President Albornoz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know the hour is late, but I did not want to miss this opportunity to briefly thank a number of people who helped our office craft this piece of legislation, including Police Chief Jones, Maryland Delegate Leslie Lopez, as well as State Senator Susan Lee. I also want to thank from the Office of Legislative Oversight, Dr. Lane Bonner-Tompkins, Dr. Theo Halt, and from our central staff, Susan Farag and Christine Wellens. I also want to thank Lillian Cruz from my office, who brought this issue to my attention in the first place and worked with a number of key stakeholders, including Brady United, Marylanders to Prevent Gun Violence, Critical Issues Forum for Montgomery County, and Moms Demand Action, Montgomery County chapter. This issue is important and it is growing. It is alarming that it falls into a gray area of both federal and state policy. And so everything that we can do to prevent these weapons of destruction from getting in the hands of those people who utilize them for destruction, and especially our children and youth, is an important step forward. I want to thank all of my colleagues for unanimously co-sponsoring this particular piece of legislation. This will give both our police department and state's attorney's office another tool in the toolbox to address issues of gun violence and do so in a way that helps keep all of our residents safe, especially those communities that are disproportionately impacted by gun violence, especially within our minority communities. So I'll note one final thing, Mr. President. There is a corresponding piece of state legislation that some of which would preempt our county legislation, but this has moved forward now almost 3 years in Annapolis without passing. Our hope is that it does pass this time around, but this legislation will protect us in the event that it does not, to be able to continue to protect our community. And thank you, Mr. Council President, for your support of this bill as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for your leadership. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Glass.
Yes.
Mr. Glass votes yes. Mr. Juanda.
Yes.
Mr. Juanda votes yes. Mr. Reamer.
Yes.
Mr. Reamer votes yes. Mr. Katz.
Yes.
Mr. Katz votes yes. Ms. Navarro.
Yes.
Ms. Navarro votes yes. Mr. Rice.
Yes.
Mr. Rice votes yes. Mr. Friedson. Mr. Friedson votes yes. Mr. Albornoz.
Yes.
Mr. Albornoz votes yes. Mr. Hooker.
Yes.
Mr. Hooker votes yes.
Bill 421 passes unanimously. Thank you, colleagues. Next is Bill 5120, Landlord-Tenant Relations, Window Guards. Let me recognize the Fed Committee Chair.
Thank you, Council President. Appreciate your drafting this legislation, which responded to a really important need. There's been, unfortunately, a number of tragedies over the year, including one recently that I know you'll mention, that needlessly have children falling out of windows. And thanks to your legislation, it's now clear that there are very inexpensive options for internal window guards, and it's really not there's no reason not to have a requirement that an apartment unit or a condo that is rented that has children in it will have guards installed, unless the owner, the occupant does not want that, but we'll have guards installed. So I would pass it back to you for your comments, but we worked through several committee sessions just to really cover all the bases, go through all the issues, and we've produced an amended version that I think is a very strong piece of legislation. And again, I appreciate your taking the time to bring it forward.
Actually affects more units. Thank you, Committee Chair, and I want to thank, of course, Council Members Friedson and Juando for their support in committee of the Window Safety Act. I want to thank Director Nagam. I see you and your team here. Thanks for all the work you put into this, and definitely want to recognize the co-sponsors, Vice President Albornoz and Council Members Navarro, Rice, and Katz for co-sponsoring the bill as well, and all the work that Christine Wellens and my staff, including Julio Murillo, spent on this. We also had a lot of advocates I want to thank, including CASA and the Renters Alliance, the City of Tacoma Park, Mayor Stewart and Councilmember Smith, and Children's Hospital and AJ Campbell and DHCA and DPS as well. There's 15,000 children who are injured by falls like this around the country every year, and unfortunately 15 to 20 who die, and we've had more than our share in Montgomery County, including 3 in the last couple of years. So these are completely avoidable. I think it's important to ensure that our housing code reflects the priority that none of these additional falls should happen on our watch, and I'm really grateful to everyone for your support. So with that, unless there are other comments, let me ask the Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Glass.
Yes.
Mr. Glass votes yes. Mr. Tawando.
Yes.
Mr. Tawando votes yes. Mr. Reamer.
Yes.
Mr. Reamer votes yes. Mr. Katz.
Yes.
Mr. Katz votes yes. Mr. Navarro.
Yes.
Mr. Navarro votes yes. Mr. Rice.
Yes.
Mr. Rice votes yes. Mr. Friedson.
Yes.
Mr. Friedson votes yes. Mr. Albornoz.
Yes.
Mr. Albornoz votes yes. Mr. Hooker.
Yes.
Mr. Hooker votes yes.
All right. Thank you all. Bill 5120 passes unanimously as well. Thank you all for your support. Thanks, colleagues, for putting in a really hard day's work today, but you're not done. We'll see you all